Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Welcome to the SPL here on July 15th. And I totally didn't just look that up to figure out what
I had to
day
fact
it
check
was.
you.
It is a beautiful, beautiful Friday here, and two players' birthdays. We got birthdays out there. You know what? I'll save the birthday wishes, because first we got to talk about somebody who's important, near and dear to us all here at the SPL. It's Prime Gaming, man. Shout-outs to them for being the title sponsor of the SPL this year. Of course, you've already seen, in videos that we've put up, things like that, what kind of new games you can get with Prime this month, which, by the way, every new month, new games. So right now, 15th, halfway through, make sure that you're getting everything you have before August comes around, and then, of course, capitalizing on August. But you also want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your membership with all of the other things, right? Your free Twitch Prime sub that you can use on all of your favorite Twitch channels, like this one if you so wanted to, as well as the games that we mentioned, the game content, as well as shipping, as well as the videos. We were actually just talking about Season 3 of The Boys and how I need to watch it. So thank you to Prime Gaming, and of course, if you're out there, make sure you get in on that while you can. I've got Mifflin on the desk with me. And Mifflin, I'm excited for today because, as was mentioned, it's birthday days for a couple of players. Panatom, he's not going to be playing, though, so we'll just wish him a happy birthday and hope that it's a really good one. Oboronic, however, he's down the hall.
Yeah, I think I can
and it's
see
his
him.
birthday, too.
I think he literally just walked into his booth. Yeah, happy birthday, Oboronic.
Happy
Good
birthday,
luck.
Oboronic. Yeah, I hope for your sake that you can get a win. Maybe that's the Valk's present to him.
It is really, like, it's a strange feeling, right? When I used to compete, if I won, I was like, all right, normal day. If I lost, it's like, today is a bad day. I wouldn't want that on my birthday.
No. At the same time, though, if I lost and I'm getting a real good birthday dinner later, maybe I don't know.
Food makes everything better.
I was gonna say I don't take losses the same way you do, so I know that that's definitely going to be skewed. I love food, and so that is something that is going to be great. We can look though at the schedule and the standings for everything that is going to be happening today. If you were wondering, this week, Valks and Scarabs, that's what we were talking about just now. Bolts and Dragons, one of the most cursed matchups in SMITE. They're going to be playing a little bit later. Leviathans Kings will open the day tomorrow. Warriors Titans is going to be fun. And then Levi's Dragons, Kings, Scarabs, Bolts, Valks, in that order, all on Sunday as we come through. And I'm excited to see that one. Standings, though, Mifflin, are getting a little more interesting. Actually, the Kings having to face the Leviathans tomorrow. Maybe a little shaky. Last time, didn't quite go. The only loss they have is up to the Leviathans. Otherwise, standing up loud and proud at the top with 2 wins over the Bolts.
Yeah, I mean, the Kings can rest on their laurels for a little bit. I mean, even if they lose their next matchup, they're still going to sit at the top, regardless of whether or not the Bolts win their matchup today. So the Camelot Kings, having built a buffer, I think can sit comfortably. On the other hand, though, first match of the day, Battle of the Bottom, 7th and 8th, must win for both of these teams.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how these two will handle that, because last time around it's a 3-game set, right? If I remember, it was a really good game for the Scarabs, a really good game for the Valks, and then a really good game for the Scarabs again. And so a lot of pressure, I think, on the Valkyries, especially on a team that's on a 9-set, close to a 10-set loss streak, to come into this and try to find some of their wins. And the problem is that they're going up against the Scarabs, which means that you're going to have to deal with Scream. Which means that, not only that, but you got birthday boy mentality Oboronic in there, and you've got Stuart.
And
it
you know
feels
it's
like
going 3.
Too much is a lot. Yeah, you already knew it's going to go 3 because you're up against the Scarabs. They're involved in this. And so it is that amount of pressure, I think, to have to handle. How do you tackle, this team as a whole? I mean, it feels like everybody's been stepping up, but even out of the jungle, it's just been too much. Even with some of the weird things. I mean, they played a Horus, what was it, last week? Things like that. Or maybe that was 2 weeks ago, where they just kind of brought in some things that weren't standard, is how I'll word it. But you know what? They still have been racking up a couple of wins, and one of them notably up against the Valks.
Yeah, Scream definitely allergic to playing the standard meta god. Seems like he'll only ever do so if he's really forced to. Like, maybe someone just locks it in even when he says no. Like, all right, I guess I have to play this Osiris. Otherwise, he's sticking to his standard assassins and generally does make them look good individually, regardless of whether or not the Solar Scarabs are winning as a team, and they seldom are. But Scream's always at least doing Scream stuff, be it on the Bastets, the Sukis, things along those lines, the Morgan Le Fay in the jungle every now and then as well. But I think gone are the days of the Solar Scarabs are the Scream carry project. That used to be a major conversation around this team. Hey, he's got the highest kill participation in the league. Hey, he's the only one that's really getting stuff rolling. No longer the case. I think that he is still certainly good. Scream has not fallen off by any stretch of the imagination. But instead, some of these other Solar Scarabs have started to catch up as well, namely Stuart. I think really has quickly become a topic of conversation. Yeah. Love watching him play when he's facilitated properly. Can really do a lot, which is what I think allows Screammmmm to go towards this style of pick, these more facilitators. Not that I want to see it anymore. No more Horus jungle for me personally, but I think the Solar Scarabs are very quickly becoming a team of their own, right? No longer is it Screammmmm +4, it's the boys. They're the boys, but not Amazon's the boys.
No, that's different.
Yeah.
Really good show, though.
It is good.
I need to catch up on season 3 because you told me that it's the best, and that I am genuinely upset. I have the tab open at home. I'll get to it. I swear. Though the other side, they are going to be taking on the Valkyries. Now the Valkyries have one win up against the Scarabs. Not this year, though. Not this squad. That was last year. Scarabs had
Different
some
legacy.
real wonky changes going on. And so that was one win that they were able to get in the only time in the 6 times they've met up that they've been able to get a win. Even to the point where last week they were joking about it a little bit, where the Valks were like, man, I don't know why we got this cursed name, or it's obviously not us, like kind of deal. Very fun, self-aware stuff. And we'll see how well they're doing. We actually got to listen in. We started peeking in. We were talking about that earlier. But to some of their comms, I believe, up against the Kings last week. So let's hear how the Valkyries are in game.
With how pressured we felt, I mean, we just lost the game earlier than that. We didn't really have an easy chance, Oh.
Holy fur. Dude, Artio's broken. Yeah. Well. Get off my friend. Oh no! No! Get the f off of me! Get the f off of me!
Jared. Wait, we got two.
Oh, 3! No! Friends are kill! Oh shit.
Dude, you popped off harder than they did. Yeah. Jared literally just popped off harder than when he got SPL. Oh my god. What the fuck?
Dude, I've definitely woke up my neighbors kissing myself.
Dude, it gets you someone who gets us excited. Look, those team comms were dead for a little bit, and I was like, oh, like, okay, I get it. You're getting rolled over. Yeah, you're just not winning. I can understand not talking a lot. Gamma pop off in that moment. That like saves the mood of the booth despite the loss.
You need someone like that on your team too, especially when you take as many beatings as the Valhalla Valkyries do. You need someone that in-game leader is a conversation. I guess in-game charisma as well.
In-game hype man, baby.
Hype man, just someone that keeps the mentals fresh and someone that can keep a smile on everyone's face, keep people talking is just incredibly important. And it's a hard role to fill at that. It's not easy to be the social battery for a team, but clearly Gamma's capable of it.
And we saw how well it invigorated Kyrmi. Kyrmi even saying to the point where he popped off harder than he did when he got SPL. And that's going to be something maybe necessary this time around. Again, we're talking about how close the set can be, how balanced it is in terms of the way these games have gone, although it has skewed heavily in favor. The wins for the Scarabs, as time has gone on, have gotten more and more in their favor. And so Kyrmi, I think, has a big job to do up against Screammmmm here. And the jungle matchups, the way that we've seen it, and how critical it is for this team specifically. As a rookie, this is not an easy position to be in.
No, it's not. And Kyrmi has been a really good leader for this team in-game as far as getting things rolling or getting proactive early. Feels like it's generally just Kyrmi doing it on his own. Even Captain Twig reflecting that stance in that he made a fraud, air quotes, tier list and put Kyrmi in the no-help category. And at times it does feel like that, but Kyrmi not immune to quiet games either. At times, just not really getting a whole lot rolling early on. I've thought a lot about the Valhalla Valkyries recently because I think their trajectory is very similar to what we had seen from the Solar Scarabs this year. I mean, sure, both teams near the bottom of the pack, both teams struggling to find their wins, but the difference is that even from offset, the Solar Scarabs had a built-in win condition, right? Like the Screammmmm was going to pop off every once in a blue moon, or Stu was going to do something crazy. But I feel like the Valhalla Valkyries are more so of a team in that they don't have that individual that's just, hey, we're going to win through them every now and then. Like he's just going to have a star performance and it's going to net us at least one victory. Instead, they are building on each other as an entire unit. When we see the Valhalla Valkyries improve, it's, oh, their team fight got better. Their objective play got a little bit better. Whereas originally with the Solar Scarabs, like, oh, Scream had a good day. Stu had a good day.
Sometimes, and you know what? It's nice sometimes for us, at least, when it's that simple. Maybe not so nice when you're in the team and you're not getting that full 5-on-5. I mean, for a while there, you know, it was like, hey, let's talk about the Leviathans. Oh, Blank is doing really well, but really it was like the 5-man effort in the late game. That's where the Valks need to be, or at least where they could potentially be if they get things together. We got to sit down and talk to them, though, about this matchup prior to today and see how they were feeling, not only with you know, mid-season changes going into this, but how they were feeling taking on the Scarabs.
Obviously, it was a tough week, specifically the King set. I think we actually did pretty good against the Dragons, all things considered, although we didn't win. We did end up with like an 8K gold lead, so at least, you know, throwing is better than just getting stomped, right? So I feel good about that at least.
We had a pretty bad performance this week. I think we've been pretty inconsistent lately, and we can either show up or, you know, we don't show up, and it's kind of in between.
I think the Bancrofts and Executioner glyphs in particular are gonna have a huge impact in what gods are played. And then, you know, that's gonna have big ripple effects because then when other gods come to meta, that means gods come in meta to counter them. So it's all gonna change up a ton, I think. The other thing is, it's gonna be the Valkyries meta. I got a feeling, I don't know. I got a good feeling about this one.
I don't think the jungle's actually going to change very much, but I think you could see some changes around the support god pool, or maybe the duo lane in specific. I think just a few of the new items and cool healer capabilities might bring them back.
Yeah, the Scarabs have been looking better this split. They've been taking games off teams, but I still think they rely heavily on Scream. And they're the other bottom team, obviously, so we're really, really hoping to beat them to kind of push forward out of the last place slot, you know?
I think as for the Valks, it's generally pretty close, but I think that's more on us not really bringing it to the table this year, I guess. I think we should be able to show up and get a quick 2-0.
Well, we've played them 3 times now. They do have the edge. They're 2-1 on us, but I think it's really close in general, and I'm confident we'll be able to take it back, tie it up.
The Valks are weird because I can't really pinpoint their improvement, really. From the outside looking in, like watching their games, they still make these kind of similar mistakes that they made at the beginning of the phase, but sometimes they don't in certain sets, and I think it just kind of depends on if they show up and make those mistakes or if they don't.
I got 2 things I think that are important out of that video. One, the Valks, much like us, recognize if you can take care of Scream, as long as oBoronic or Stuart are just having a normal day, then you're probably fine. That being said, it's been more often lately that oBoronic or Stu, sometimes both, just have a very, very solid performance, so that's something that they're going to have to work out for. The other thing is what Gamma, I kind of liked his stance, which is, you know what, throwing an 8K gold lead is better than never getting an 8K gold lead.
We're so different.
Really? You'd rather get stomped than throw?
Yeah, if you get stomped, it's like, oh, we lost out early, you know, they snowballed us, that's hard to make a comeback.
Okay, wait, but put yourself...
when your hand is on the lever of power and you fumble,
yeah,
that feels so bad.
I will admit, that it is one of the worst feelings. But at the point where they went 3 months without ever touching the lever. The lever didn't exist for them.
I mean,
and so for them, I think it was the idea of being able to, like, all of a sudden where you're like, oh my god,
we chose this loss.
We have power. Yeah, it's something that they haven't been able to experience often, but being able to do so up against the Dragons, I think, was a good look for them. We'll see if they can do it again, and maybe this time maintain it instead of lose it up against the Scarabs. Gilgamesh, who's back, by the way. Welcome back, Gilgamesh. The Kali and the Bastet banned out here by the Valkyries. Chernabog, Yamoja, and Khepri banned out by the Scarabs. Nothing really to read into from the Scarabs there. It feels like, hey, meta, meta, meta. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh, Kali, Bastet, that's a, oh man, I don't want to mess with Scream, dude.
I mean, Gamma let us know, too. Hey, it seems like the Solar Scarabs played through Scream, so they try and limit them immediately. 3 bans towards them, and then the first pick, Erlang Shen, a contested pick between the 2 junglers, but certainly one that falls comfortably within Kyrmi's god pool. But here's the thing about Screammmmm his eclectic picks.
Yeah.
You banned Kali, all right. You banned Bastet. He's the only one playing that. Gilgamesh, sure, he's a bit of an unknown. He's been banned for a little while now. Back. You ban all that, and you take an Erlang for yourself, and Scream says, oh no, Nemesis.
Oh no. Anyway,
21,
he just continues. I mean, he
You guys are so
gets to chill, and this is going to be a good pick for them. Look, Artio, we heard in the listen-in the Valkyries' thoughts on the Artio. So they think that they've got a pretty big bonus in their god
Huang.
because of that. Huang, Xing Chen, alongside that Nemesis. And I dare say, Mifflin, the Scarabs are getting a really good top 3. But the Valkyries took away, I think, like the last 3-4 games I've watched from Stuart were all on Xbalanque, so they've at least stripped away some of that from the Scarabs.
Yeah, but still some really strong hunters available. Heimdallr still out there. Hachiman sure hasn't been quite as in the meta, but still certainly can fit in well. Jingwei, very strong too. Huang, though, I think very interesting in that I'm expecting that of the standard mages that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
he might get a pretty nice buff from some of these glyphs. I'm thinking Perfected Rod of Tahuti feels pretty decent on him. Your Cultivate Dow sets up for the first ability. Mark him with the Cultivate, or reap your rewards with the first ability as well. So getting all those cooldowns back pretty quickly, some additional movement speed on a god that's already super, super slippery. I'm excited to see how the Solar Scarabs and how Boronic, assuming that it is Boronic, decides to build this Huang.
Yeah, it's not uncommon lately to see a Huang get thrown over into the duo lane, let a hunter go mid and see what it is. And notably, Amus and Cobb, someone who's been played in mid, Uller just now banned out, are still available. So maybe we'll see the B and have that come through. The Stinger, yeah, that was something we were talking about, I think, on Wednesday. Again, a lot of those, if you go to youtube.com/SmitePro, you'll be able to watch a lot of that content getting uploaded over the next few days. But one of the big ones was like, okay, hey guys, what do you think about AMC? Is he still good in mid? And they went, well, yeah, he's got pressure and prot shred. Nothing changed. We love him. And so still available for either of these squads if they want it.
Yeah, I mean, AMC would fit the Solar Scarab's composition, I suppose. That would leave you with either a pretty immobile long lane player, and then having an Erlang Shen have an easy rotation over to the duo could be pretty rough. Has the potential to have that flex potential between mid and in the ADC role, but instead Heimdallr locked in. No arguments here. I think Heimdallr in a very good position to just continue building as he has been. I'm not certain that we're going to see too many changes in the itemization from him. Maybe Executioner gets picked up just because all the Executioner upgrades are just really, really good.
Yep.
But
And
outside of that, standard.
You know, the Exeglyph capping you at 1.75 attack speed, like, Heimdallr's never been like I need the max attack speed. Like, Silver Branch Bow was the thing that made you want that and kind of go those builds. But even prior to that, it wasn't necessarily like the thing. People were leaning into hitting really hard, admittedly trying to do it a little more often. 1.75 doesn't feel bad, though.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe Heimdallr with his auto attack chain as well could run like Death Toll into Dominance, into maybe an Aussie just for a little bit of lifesteal, then Heavy Executioner, all of a sudden you're doing 35% upwards prot shred, plus Dominance passive, already hitting really, really hard.
I hate the numbers you just said.
Yeah, what is it, like a 1.75 attack on the third swing as well?
Who needs AMC?
Heimdallr might be able to just do it. I'm excited, man.
You talked yourself into
changes,
it. You got hyped about it.
I want to see some of these new builds.
Yeah, I think that's going to be that's always the most fun about it, as well as seeing, shifts in gods. So far, though, nothing really out of the ordinary.
Well, that's different.
Tsukuyomi is definitely one out of there. You see those times played, it says 2. Both of those, I believe, have been Scream.
I hate this draft.
And one was a win, one was a loss. They get the Tsukuyomi. They get a Terra as well, which is something we haven't seen too often. Usually, if anyone plays it, it's genetics. But you don't like the draft. What's up? What's coming from the Valks that you don't like? I mean, synergy, where is it breaking?
It is just a completely non-standard composition. I mean, of the selections locked in, we've seen Benny play 3 of them in mid. If I had to guess, I probably would say Tsukuyomi mid for them this time around. Artio and solo, Terra over to the support role. Xbalanque, standard hunter, Erlang Shen, likely to the jungle. I think that is probably what we're slated to see. Assuming that it is Huang mid still, and that is an assumption I'm willing to make. Tsukuyomi's got decent matchup in that, hey, all-in commits onto Huang, not exactly the greatest, but Tsukuyomi very, very strong at just poking at a range, slowly plugging away at that HP bar, setting up for some of these ganks. And then eventually, if he does start to use that float, you can finish him off with the Piercing Moonlight. So I think all right there. Itemization changes might favor Tsukuyomi as well. Very likely it is going to be a Soul Eater start, but the contention point for this Valkyries composition is the late game team fight. How is this going to look in a 5-on-5 engagement? It's essentially just a 100% spearhead composition. Dive, dive, Xbalanque, dive, dive, right? But looking at what the Solar Scarabs have got, counter engage for days. Shen could just really slow down your siege. Nox can remove that damage from the spearhead. Heimdallr is one of the safest, if not the safest hunter in the game. Huang, one of the safest, if not the safest mage in the game. Could make it very difficult for the Valks to find value off of their initiation.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of dive with a lot of people that have really good escape on the other side. Like Nox has the quote-unquote, let's call it weakest escape here, and she can dash into one of the others that then has really good escape.
Yeah, she's got all their escapes.
Yeah, she's going to be able to get out of there pretty well. And it feels like the Scarabs here have a good chance of being able to kind of choose their engagements. They've got decent initiation off the Nemesis, the Xing, hell, even the Nox and the Huang to be able to lock people up. And really good disengage in the event things don't go well. A good like tactical retreat, we'll call it, for them in the middle of the fight. Whereas, like you just said, I mean, there's a lot of dive, there's a lot of chase, but it doesn't feel like it's all going to work maybe as together as well as the Scarabs draft can. And looking at it, you mentioned Huang and the Tsukuyomi as an individual matchup. He has a lot of like capability to chase down a lot of those people, right? Like their escape, Piercing Moonlight will get you over there. But now you're deep, surrounded by a bunch of other Scarabs. Like, it feels like it's just going to misplace them more often than maybe help them.
I do think that the Valhalla Valkyries have got a composition that can alleviate some of those issues with Tsukuyomi. You've got standard burst healing from Terra. You've got healing in combat from Artio. So even if you're deep out of position, and you likely won't be because the rest of the draft is also diving. If anything, Piercing Moonlight just puts you with your boys.
Them. You get to play catch-up.
Ideally, that is the ideal situation. There is some leeway with that, but the main weakness of this Valhalla Valkyries draft is getting to that late game team fight or that mid game team fight from even. If the Valks establish a lead, and that has not been an issue for the Valks in the past, they've been able to find those leads pretty consistently. This is a composition that can just barrel roll you. You're just done. If they're like 5k up in like 15 minutes, I'm not certain how the Solar Scarabs are going to be able to fight back into it. But establishing that lead against another team that is very used to that pace of play is going to be pretty difficult, even with your eclectic composition.
I'm interested to see how the Valks handle this. Again, one that typically goes 3 games, kind of expected because Scarabs are involved in it, but also the Valkyries tend to be able to step up to this squad a little bit better, but also one that, well, maybe is needed for you, right? I mean, at this point, this is the second time. Last time this phase, you're going to be facing the Scarabs if you're the Valkyries, and things have not been going your way. Still got a goose egg in the win column for pretty much the year. They did take down the Leviathans in phase 1, though, so that one's, I think, at least exciting, right? Something to be able to go back and say, look,
that was like
we've
week
managed
1
to get
phase
it.
1 too, or maybe week 2?
I thought it was week 4.
Okay, well, maybe I'm just wrong. It was early.
It was early. It was definitely early, and it
early.
was in a slump for the Leviathans, right? So like, there's a lot of ways to look at it, a lot of ways to try and slice that one up. This feels like this set needs to be a win for them in order to perceive themselves as making progress. I think for the Scarabs as well, one that feels like it needs to be a win for them in order to make sure that they're not losing progress.
I mean, the simple math of it in competitive SMITE or anywhere there's a bracket is you need to win against the lower seeds.
Yep.
Those are always your must-win matchups. So if anyone is a lower seed than you, consider it a must-win. So the Solar Scarabs, probably a little bit more pressure on them to find their victory here.
Yeah.
Because they are a little bit higher up in contention. The Valkyries have been struggling a little bit more so, but you got to go up if you're the Valkyries. So, of course,
and also you want to
pretty
give
high
Boronic a
contention match
really
for them.
good birthday present.
Yeah, Boronic's birthday.
needs a win.
There's a lot riding on this. But I think if we were to allocate the pressure, try and figure out who the pressure is on more so, it's got to be the Solar Scarabs.
Well, I guess we'll see whether or not that affects them here throughout everything. We will, however, be throwing it to a quick break. Stuart, locked in a band skin. You know what? I'm going to blame it last night. Solar Troll was keeping them up a little bit later, and so I think that's exactly what it was. Stuart's going to get off, and they were like, no, come on, play a custom game with us. Play one more ranked game. And so I'm going to blame that for him. Either way, waking up for him, we're going to go to a quick break, and when we get back, we'll have game number 1.
Brutality, make it 1, make it 2, make it 3 times around, and the suffering, they're suffering, yeah. Counting down, tick tock, and the time is running out. No talk and the time is running out. No first class ticket. We're crashing down. No money that can buy your way out. Go ahead and try. 'Cause you had, 'cause you had, 'cause you had your Where have you been? Did you see, did you hear, did you feel anything? In the world you're in the world you're in. Brutality, make it one, make it two, make it three times around. And the suffering, there's suffering.
Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Dollar or something? Get you $1 or something? Something. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Dollar or something? Get you $1 or something?
Well, welcome back, SMITE fans, as we get ready for game number 1. Again, picks and bans you'll see there towards the bottom of the screen. Mifflin, you were not feeling too hot on the Valk's draft and what its capabilities are doing. So I want you to just illustrate to me how you expect, well, is this a draft that is going to fall behind early? That's something that they've struggled with a lot, is the gold lead early on in these games. Scarabs typically have a very strong early game. So is this something that they can even get to the late game even on?
The Valhalla Valkyries got a draft that should just flourish in the early game.
Okay.
I'm looking at pressure on pressure on pressure. You got a pressure jungler, high pressure, alleged mid laner, of course. Some flex potential certainly there. Could be Terra mid, could be Tsukuyomi mid. I'm hedging my bets towards that Tsukuyomi. And Tsukuyomi should be able to get a little bit more pressure than a Huang, especially around levels like 4 through 6. The wave pressure should belong to him, which should net you mid-camp control, which should net you greater Scorpions, which should, hypothetically, net you an early game lead, which is completely contingent. I think that's the entire strategy for this Valhalla Valkyries draft, is get that early game lead, start moving in towards these objectives, get to the late game with the lead. If they make it to the late game from an even point, I feel like the Solar Scarabs are just going to outscale by having a much more standard composition that executes very well. But if the concern for you is, can the Valhalla Valkyries get to the late game? I don't think that should be a concern.
Okay, make it to the late game. Thumbs up on that one. Win is yet to be seen, and if it's even, it's a little shaky as to whether they can do so. But a dive comp, as they've built, specifically with like a gold lead. Let's put them in the scenario. Let's pretend that it's going to be the same way that it was in game 2. Actually, you know what? We won't even have to pretend. We can see if they can do it here. Will they get their early lead, or will they fall apart? We're going down to game number 1 with J-Mac and Trelly.
Thank you so much, Gore and Mifflin. Day number 1 of week 6 of the SPL, and it should be an exciting one. Not just because we get to jump back right into the SMITE Pro League, Trelly, but because it's a brand new patch. The mid-season has dropped. So many new items, so many changes that have come through. And as the weekend goes on, as the weeks progress, I'm sure we'll get to see so much of that develop. In fact, the very first one we get to see is the Protector's mask popped out here. Let's send J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug joining me here. And Charlie, talk to me a little about this mask real quick.
Well, see, the issue with starting anything besides like Sentinels or Benevolence was obviously that you weren't going to get that extra gold. Now, though, Protector's Mask is going to give you some extra gold, so you're not going to fall behind when you do that. You'll still be a bit tankier, and you'll do a little bit less damage, the same the mask always did. Just it's a little bit more crisp early, and it's a starter item now, so that's why we're seeing Inbound go it on this Nox. Well, let's see how much it nets the Nox in the early. That's the only new item I'm taking a look at the moment, but there still are some chances as the game goes on that we get to take a look at some others.
Oh yeah, for sure. I imagine once we start seeing some of those ones pop through, some of the new glyphs, some of the glyphs that have changed from one item to another, and then obviously all just the fun stuff in general that will come through. We'll hit those as they come up, but as you said, this mask, the only one that we really get to see. As mentioned, now a starter item instead of the traditional mask tree that was there. Talking about pressure, though, that was the name of the game, at least for Mifflin, for the Valkyries, was this team has built up to what can have some good pressure. You have Xbalanque, Terra will be able to win out in one lane. Tsukuyomi, Erlang should win this mid 2v2. So you imagine that with a comp like this that the Valks have, that they should be able to fight back against Scarabs and develop that early lead.
Yeah, they definitely should be looking to get ahead early, but I don't think, you got to pay attention to the gold lead. The Valks can certainly get ahead and find kill pressure. They can find ganks. That's never been the issue. It's usually the farm on map, the field that you're looking at. The Valks are going to get ahead and try to find that action, but I got to pay attention to the gold lead because that's really where they've struggled in. I was going to say historically, but I mean just this year. That's all that's really been here. So historically, they've really been struggling finding that XP lead, that gold lead, and so on. So, and given the fact that the Scarabs have a decent early as well, Huang is not afraid to scrap early. Nemesis is not afraid to scrap early, so just because BennyQ and Kyrmi should have a fair bit of presence doesn't mean that oBoronic and Screammmmm can't fight back. They certainly can.
We already see that Benny and Kyrmi are going to have that wave pressure. So that just because Scream has not really jumped himself into the lane just yet to really help out with this clear. Huang not really known for his super great early clear, but once the game does get a little bit later, that's when we'll start to see the impact on that god. oBoronic was one of the first players to kind of bring this god out into the Pro League, and whenever he made that debut with it, did pretty well on it.
Yeah, the oBoronic Huang was able to land some crisp bullets, and that's pretty much the tell of a good Huang player. How's your dueling dragons? Are you landing both of them effectively? Then you got a pretty decent Huang. My issue, though, as you said, the early clear is not the best. Conduit Gem helps that out a ton, and it looks like Sands of Time for oBoronic here, probably going into that Warlock Sash, so wanting to stack up early. That essentially means no fighting, right? To me, that says the Scarabs are not looking for action in the mid lane. You could definitely look towards Scary D. Aquarius did go for the beats, though, so no Whirlwind of Rage of Steals, free kills, setups in the soul lane. It's just going to be a little bit before the Scarabs want to get active. They probably just want to keep pushing their farm lead as much as possible in the early.
So is this kind of a recognition of, well, the Valks have pressure in basically all three lanes. We can't fight into that one, so we're just going to kind of hold up until that mid game, or is this just the Solar Scarabs playing kind of a Solar Scarab style of play?
I think it's a little bit of both. They like to play their own little style. They like to get active early if they can, but they also recognize, hey, that's a double Guardian, triple Fizz comp. You know, Tsukuyomi's going to be swinging in the early. We really don't want to deal with Kyrmi with the Mannequin Mace. That's going to do a ton of damage on this Erlang Shen. So we're going to sit back, hopefully force some beads, make Inbound's life easier if need be, because that's 4 beads and a blink. Kyrmi will be in some trouble if he ever does get locked down by this Nox. But besides that, the rest of the Valks are putting a fair bit of respect onto the support of the Solar Scarabs. You know, once that Shadow Lock comes through, you can either force some beads or you're forcing a kill.
At least for our first few minutes. No blood spilled. Maybe we'll have some action in the solo lane. Aquarius gets picked up, thrown over towards Scream, and waiting for the chance to use the stun and the dash, and that is more than enough for an Artio to get away from these two gods, especially with all of that mobility expended before. So Aquarius be fine for now in solo.
Yeah, it's ideal to save that hook slam for the dash, but with Aquarius saving the bite to make sure to stun out, I think Scary D was sort of forced into putting all of his damage out, and Aquarius knew he can hold on to the beats, though. There wasn't too much DPS coming his way. Scream hasn't backed yet, so that's only a tier 1 katana online for this Nemesis. You're really not able to shred through an Artio's HP this early on with the dash up as well. But it looks like the regank situation, this time Scary D's in trouble.
On to Scary D, has the first leap, has the second leap. Dash connects from Aquarius, slows him down. One more auto from Kyrmi. Will strike first blood for the Valhalla Valkyries.
Yeah, that's the issue with using that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. If you don't have any CC immunity, the lockdown on the opposite side is going to be rough. You have to deal with the cripple field and just so much CC coming from Kyrmi. So great play by the Valks, just recognizing, hey, that's a teleport Xing Shen. We can lock him down pretty easily here. First blood for the Valks, and the gold lead is going to be about 1,000 in their favor at the moment, just about 900.
Nice little start for the Valkyries and making sure to put that one over towards Kyrmi, who has been one of those major facilitators for his team of getting the ball rolling early. It's going to be great. Inbound does find the root combo on towards Gamma. oBoronic able to take away the mid-heartbeat camps because of that. So Scarabs still willing to fight back. And Inbound going on to this Nox, it's something that he's brought out a couple of times. We mostly see it over on Jake, but the few games that Inbound has gotten to play on this one, it essentially just becomes like whoever Inbound grabs is kind of just dying.
Yeah, that's got to be the play style whenever you do pick Nox. Is like, guys, follow me. If I hit this Shadow Lock, we're winning. If I miss, I mean, good luck, because my peel is now gone. I'm gonna throw my ult out and try to reduce as much damage as possible, but there's not real else that you can do. Gamma is gonna take a little bit of damage here. Has the double dash available, but he's silenced.
Silenced out. Scary D is rotated back over for some revenge. And Scream is the one to come up first for the Solar Scarabs. But all that starting off once again, Inbound dashing up and finding that lockdown onto Gamma and with no, well, there was
beads.
Gamma,
That's, yeah, that's what I was
just
waiting.
questionably not using them.
I saw the look on his face. You could tell he was like, I'm not worried about this. He didn't hit the He didn't hit the silence underneath, so it's just a shadow lock. I'll outwait it, and then I'll just dash away. There was just no play there. I don't think he knew Scary D made the rotation over, and it looks like, once again, Scary D trying to grab the beads from Aqua, and once again, Aqua's not going to use them.
No, Aqua will be able to dash away.
But here's Scream.
Half HP, Scream is here. Beads are gone from Aquarius, and Scream should be able to turn this one around. Scary D will get the leap to find the kill because the stun was good. But the Solar Scarabs, who were down to 1-0, now up 2-1 to the Valks.
All right, I'm just going to put out a sweeping motion here. Just beads, you know? It worked out the first time, Aqua, but Gamma tried and just, you know, got punished for not beadsing. And then Aqua's like, I'm not beadsing, and he died as well. So just beads. It's better to use it than die there. And now it looks like, once again, Inbound could be in some trouble. BoroniC makes the rotation to help.
And a danger taunt is good. Inbound is gone, though. BennyQ, credit to the kill. Stuart making a rotation over the dueling Dragon. Sit 3, BoroniC with a massive kill. Stuart sends one through the realms, and Gamma will have to sit back and watch and wait for his teammate to crash back in, but Scream's rotation, Kyrmi should go down here. Stuart, credit to the kill, and now 4 for the Scarabs.
This game is an absolute bloodbath. 6 kills, 7 minutes in. BoroniC's not done trying to find even more pressure, forcing out the double dash from Gamma. What a beautiful dueling dragons, though, from BoroniC early on. That's a Warlock Sash, Huang. I highlighted earlier that when you go this item, you don't want to get active early, but if you're hitting ults like that, you're not going to hate it, right? If it gets lined up for you, that's really what you are looking for. So beautiful fight for the Solar Scarabs, which all started with Inbound sort of getting caught out there. Just a great rotation in, and his team had his back.
His team able to rally behind and make it a 2-for-1 pick when it comes to that little matchup. And because of that, the Solar Scarabs, who were down 1,000 gold, have now bumped themselves up about 600-700 gold. So a nice little swing for the Solar Scarabs to mitigate that early pressure that the Valkyries had over into the solo lane. But I think you're right to just keep alluding to the fact that so many of these characters have beads and just haven't really been using them during these fights. We saw a couple of beads burn during that one. Notably, BennyQ lost his in the engagement. But as these games go down, I mean, that beads relic is going to be so crucial.
Yeah, I understand wanting to hold on to it, but sometimes you just got to say, like, I'm going to respect your damage. If you're ulting me here, there's a good chance that someone is trying to follow up with that. As it looks like Inbound and Gamma just sort of fighting, but the Valhalla Valkyries will get credit for that obelisk, and they will get the trebuchet in that duo lane. And then they can choose to hold on to that really as long as they would like if they want to try and open up some Gold Fury pressure. This early on, though, hardly ever the option, right? You never really want to try and pull that. It does a ton of damage at the moment, so you don't want to be looking at that. You got to watch out, though. BoroniC getting stunned out very early.
One combo from Inbound and BoroniC, and then some follow-up damage by Scream. BennyQ goes in with the ultimate. He's stuck under the tower. Does get the credit for the kill, but he's not going to make it out of here. A 1-for-1 trade of the mid laner. Scream getting the credit for the return fire kill. That's not always the trade that you want to take if you're the Valkyries.
Yeah, it's not going to be terrible, and it's not going to be great either. I think it's a little bit of both, but Scary D will be able to pick up Gamma here. Not thrown far because of the beads, and I don't think they have the damage to continue the chase. Scream's just going to switch. Those Harpy camps were much more valuable at that point. Why throw all of your damage into a Terra that you maybe can kill, probably won't, then just get the guaranteed invade and deny Kyrmi some of that farm. I think definitely a good option, especially because look at the XP gap. Right now, Scream's a level up to Kyrmi in the jungle and seals away that blue buff effectively, so just trying to climb up as much as possible.
A level up on the right sides of the map. Mid lane, about a half level separating those two, and then Inbound up 1 over Gamma for now. But Inbound has been active across the board. Something catch your eye there, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope Kyrmi goes into Executioner there. It could be the Kinsai early on, but I would like to see it. You know, obviously Wowy also has the tier 2 balance blade, so I just want to see these new items. We'll see how this plays out because only one of them really needs to if you want to shred the prots for the rest of your phys. I imagine one of these physical characters on the Valhalla Valkyries will get it just to help out the rest of the squad. BennyQ's double stacking. He's got the Transcendence and the Soul Eater, so I don't imagine he'll try to build into anything just yet.
BoroniC will not get the larger of the Harpies at the mid camp. That one goes over at least to the Valkyries. Scary D going with a Witchblade second item, something that we typically do see once we start getting to these more auto attack style of compositions, we see it from things like Cthulhu more often than not as well, but picking up second a little bit earlier than we're normally used to seeing, Charlie.
Yeah, I think Scary D just recognizes how much damage is going to be coming from, you know, the likes of Kyrmi and Wowy in these fights, and obviously Aqua also itemized towards it, so putting some respect onto Scream and Stuart, so all of your damage coming your way is going to be physical if you are Scary D, so you want to try and reduce those auto attackers. But that means that oBoronic might have a decent chance at trying to burst through Aqua. He's got a full Genji Scar though, and Kyrmi does actually build the Xe as the Scarabs just get a free Pyromancer.
Pyromancer does go to the Solar Scarabs. Oracles go over to the Valhalla Valkyries, but the more valuable of those two being the ones that the Scarabs picked up. 5 kills already on the board, an 8-kill game this early on. Not something that we're totally used to seeing. A 2,000 gold lead, nearly 4K XP up for the Scarabs, and an ultimate from Inbound, just for the sake of throwing that ultimate out there.
Oh no, that was he was stopping his back. He wanted to be annoying, and now BennyQ has to wait for the tick damage to go all the way through before he can channel his back. So might as well stay for one more wave at this point. And I think, you know, that does open up a little bit of farm opportunities, given the fact that BennyQ has to sit here, which means he's probably got an item he wants to build, a tier 1 that could be a power spike. So he's got to sit around, wait a little bit longer, and that does just add a little bit of extra pressure for the Scarabs if they do want to try and push something. But it looks like there's backing, so Inbound was doing that just to be annoying.
Yeah. Just going to keep BennyQ by. Benny does get the wave, ends up going towards red and working on stacking up his Soul Leader there. Will be an Aussie picked up from both Wowy and Stuart, so no Executioner, at least on the side of the Scarabs just yet, but could be hopeful, seeing maybe Scream going towards that. Scary D collapsed on by 2. Use the ultimate, gets 1 set of beads away from Aquarius. Kyrmi, undeterred by it, finds the pin on max range. Scream goes in, though, gets the ultimate onto Kyrmi, who gets a double taunt of his own. Scary D will jump in, jump right back out, and the Solar Scarabs are all in the retreat because there's one more rotating in for the mid lane. Kyrmi finds the blink in, finds some decent damage up, and now with BennyQ here, the Piercing Moonlight will be enough damage to take them down.
Yeah, great rotation, and Aqua lives with a sliver, and it looks like Scary D and oBoronic will be going for blue, but Stuart has to teleport out, taking a ton of damage. This is a great play by the Valks, using this Trebuchet to try and get some value on this dual lane while the rest of the squad is fighting over in solo. It doesn't look like it's going to net too much. You at least get Stuart to teleport out. And Inbound just once again throwing out that ult, trying to deter some of the pressure. Stuart did hold on to both relics and ultimate, so wasn't too worried, but did get dangerously low there underneath trying to defend that Trebuchet.
I thought for a moment he might have gone down, but able to just barely squeak by thanks to the help of that Bifrost. Trebuchet got a couple of shots against the tower, so it's some decent pressure for the Valkyries. Maybe wishing they had gotten a little bit more, but finding a pick on the right side, getting some pressure on the left side, and it's just going to the name of the composition they built around. Gods that are more so known to be able to box in this early stage.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see some vision put towards this Gold Fury because of that. A lot of auto attack damage as you highlight, which means Gold Fury can get shred through very quickly as well. The Solar Scarab's still up 5-4 kill-wise, and the gold is certainly still in their favor as well. Given the fact that Scary D could teleport over at any moment, you got to be watching out if you are the Valks, because that Gold Fury's got to be the first contention point. They already let the Pyromancer go for essentially free, so you got to make sure that you are putting your foot down for this Gold Fury, right? This isn't one of those objectives that you'll say, hey, we'll let it go, we don't want to fight. This is something that you absolutely have to try and defend here, so I'm expecting to see pretty much this, a lot of grouping around the left side of the map. Scary D's over here as well.
Inbound and crew go ahead and invade the red buff, and they're able to steal that one away from the Valkyries, so BennyQ going to be without his extra bonus damage. Oracle's dropped, and the Gold Fury picked up by the Solar Scarabs. A little late on rotation from the Valkyries to try and get in here. oBoronic went up into the flight. Gamma, Kyrmi are going to try and slow this one down. Kyrmi stops from being able to go in. The Scarabs get the Gold Fury. Kyrmi only finds a taunt on the one. BennyQ finds an ult on a few members, but he's not going to get a whole lot of damage from that one. Stuart half HP, BennyQ full HP battling in. Stuart Bifrost the opposite side of the map, and the Solar Scarabs are just trying to get out. Triple dueling dragon by oBoronic, and that will stop the Valkyries from pushing any further in.
Wow, I mean, a lot of damage coming out from BennyQ there, up against 3 Scarabs, but no kills, and they lost the Gold Fury. You did get a ton of relics, so if the Valks are looking to force a fight after the fact, that could be beneficial. It looks like they do want this tier 1 tower, so trying to get some gold back. This is exactly what you want to see because they were a little late to the Gold Fury, a little late on the rotation. Scaredy gets there first, so losing that is understandable. They weren't able to find the fight back. That's a big loss. But the Valks, they regrouped, they went for that tier 1 tower, tried to answer back some of that gold they just lost. That shows me they're at least learning how this matchup needs to go, and they're not going to get rolled over completely just yet.
No, at least for now. Gold see it around 1,400 up for the Solar Scarabs. Some good fighting from the Valkyries to keep this farm game up, and you can see the spike immediately down where the Gold Fury went over to the Scarabs, and in just as quick of a time, the Valkyries were able to bring that one back up and kind of alleviate most of that lead that the Scarabs had built with just that one objective. So, or at least for the Valkyries, they got some time to buy a couple of items picked up. The Jotun's Wrath finished by BennyQ, new, I should say, a new glyph available to that one. I'm curious if we might see there, and as you were highlighting with these Executioners, now picked up by both the junglers, a lot of options available towards both of these teams.
Yeah, I think just a little bit early on, you're not gonna get the most worth. Once some more protections are built, you could see them as Gamma and Aqua trying to defend the Pyromancer from once again falling to the hands of the Scarabs.
Kyrmi is here this time, and Ultimate onto Aquarius, gets the beads from Scary D, taking those ones away, but Pyromancer will go to the Scarabs and then use a couple of ultimates to make sure to secure that one, but I'm sure the Scarabs are also in the mindset of, hey, we got the objective now, we can back off and wait another minute before we do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you're not at the point where you have to worry about a sneaky fire giant, so get the objective, get out. That's got to be the name of the game, and the Scarabs have been doing that pretty consistently. We saw the first Pyromancer, we saw the first Gold Fury, and now the second Pyromancer, all going the way of the Scarabs, and no casualties after the fact. There is 4 kills on the sides of the Valks, but not after the objective. They've been good at getting in and getting out. Given the lane matchup thus far, Wowy has been able to find some decent farms. Stuart's 1-0 and still both level 16. Their builds are exactly mirrored as well, so pretty decent there. And it looks like the tower will fall down, so actually some extra gold going in the pocket of the Valks.
Good. Kyrmi going for a Chalice invade, finds a triple taunt, and then a triple stun by Gamma, but Kyrmi has nothing left. His beads are gone, his blink can't get off. It's Stuart. Credit to the kill thanks to the help of the Gjallarhorn Cone. And the Solar Scarabs find a pick off kind of a very aggressive play. I mean, it did get a Trebuchet for the Valkyries, so that's a benefit. But if they lose more than just Kyrmi, definitely would not be. BennyQ had that ult to get himself out.
Yeah, it really just depends on what they're able to do with that Trebuchet. At least Aquarius is able to farm up right lane while this is happening, and that tier 1 tower is being looked at. The minions aren't in yet, so just tanking up for the sake of it. I don't think that tower is going to fall down anytime soon, and now Inbound is just 1 HP, but Scaredy thinks they want to fight this?
Does get the beads away from BennyQ, so that's a big one. Gamma trying to get into the midst of the fight. Inbound throws out his ultimate, doesn't really find the target who he was probably hoping for. Flight from Oboronic, lands him right back in, jukes out the Shuriken, and then the Aegis right after. It's a refire, a reinitiation, I should say, as Aquarius goes in and finds a pick onto Oboronic with the help of Wowy, the Valhalla Valkyries, fighting back against the Scarabs and maybe even getting more. Scream's got the dash to get away. It seems that the fighting will finally cease.
I feel as if whenever I'm watching the Scarabs, a play like this will always come through where it's just they're in a commanding lead and then they just force something that doesn't make any sense. Inbound tanked that tower up, no minions came in, no one gets the tower. Then Scary D goes in while the rest of the team is backing up, unfortunately gets picked, and now, well actually it wasn't Scary D, it was Oboronic who gets picked, but you get what I'm saying. Now the Valhalla Valkyries should have some presence here. It looks like the Primal Fury is not going to spawn in for another 45 seconds, so it's going to be a full 5v5 attempt unless the Valks can try and use this time right now. You got 5 seconds before Boronic's back. It doesn't look like they're trying to force anything else, so a good answer back and a solid defense. We're pretty much back to net even with the Solar Scarabs, rather, still being up in gold.
Solar Scarabs will be fine, but this gold lead has pretty much stagnated this entire time through from, what was that, like minute 9 or so, all the way up until now. The gold lead, it will spike down and then spike itself right back up. So the Solar Scarabs haven't really been able to push the lead that they've established. And because of that, the Valkyries have been able to keep their fight back. And we finally get a brand new look at one of our glyphs. Heavy Executioner picked up by Scream.
Yeah, I've been seeing the talk on Twitter, which is essentially that this is a jungle-centric item, right? ADCs love their attack speed, but the junglers that aren't going to get to that cap where you're not having a 2.5 attack speed, 1.75 is plenty for a jungler like Nemesis, and with the hi-rez auto cancels, you already have Stone Cutting Sword. We're going to see a lot of protections being shredded through as the Primal Fury has started up once again. It looks like Scaredy's in base, so he's got to teleport in.
Oh my lord, Gamma's health bar is just melted away. Stuart finds the last auto, inbound as well. Falling low, dashes away, but not far enough from BennyQ. Stuart finds a double kill in the fight. Scaredy goes for an ult, doesn't find anybody. BennyQ dashes in, gets the H's from Stuart, and now the Aquarius has rejoined the fight. Wowy and BennyQ are the ones who are low. Aquarius has to leave the team. Stuart finds a triple kill with the sword, still pushing in. BennyQ gets himself out. Aquarius under fire. The teleport in with the Bifrost, but Aquarius has got the distance to get out. It's a triple for Stuart and the Scarabs.
I saw the lights. I really wanted to see if they could chase that one down. Unfortunately, Aqua gets away, and only the triple kill will come through. Primal Fury gets to be started back up, and there's just no way there could be any answer back. BennyQ was going very deep in that fight and was able to get a kill and get out, but you're going to lose the Primal Fury. The Scarabs get a triple kill on their ADC, 5-0. That's your fantasy team, isn't it?
That's my fantasy hunter right there. 2 phases straight, I've been picking up Stuart for the fantasy league, and
That's why right there.
This is why. I mean, even when you go back and look at games that the Scarabs are losing, Stuart's not really a player who goes down in KD very often. He'll usually stay pretty up there. BennyQ gonna get some shots over against Screammmmm. That Piercing Moonlight, though, healed everything back towards Screammmmm, and now BennyQ gets hit with that ultimate by Inbowned, who's still in the midst of everybody. Solar Scarabs, they get themselves away from the onslaught of Benny.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, BennyQ's not afraid. Like he's level 19, he's got the Soul Eater and the Serrated Edge, so he's got a fair bit of lifesteal going for him. He can just ult to the backline and get out. It's a good thing that Gamma did come to help out, because I think he dove a little bit deep for that kill, but could have had a decent attempt at trying to kill Screammmmm there if the shell didn't come through on top of that shield. Either way, BennyQ is getting to the backline pretty consistently and has a ton of damage. It's just no one can really dive with him at the moment. Aqua can get to the backline if he blinks in, but still level 17 would love a little bit of extra tank stats. And Kyrmi is unfortunately not able to get to the backline. He has a fair bit of damage built, but not very tanky on this Erlang Shen. So when you are a Tsukuyomi, the desk highlighted it. It's all or nothing, right? You are Piercing Moonlight to the backline, trying to get aggressive, but that's not a Pyromancer pull. This is Fire Giant.
Fire Giant started up. Aquarius is here. Valkyries are now on their way to slow this one down. Fire at half HP, finally leashed by Screammmmm, as the rest of the Scarabs have backed away from it since the fight was about to start up. But instead, they'll go away from the fire and go ahead and grab his little brother, the Pyromancer, taken away.
Unfortunate. I said this is not the Pyromancer, this is the fire, and they said, faded.
Well, it was.
This is, yeah,
You're right, it was.
Yeah, and they decided, you know what, you're right. Everyone else is going to be here. Let's just go for the Pyromancer again and push our lead a little bit further. So the Solar Scarabs coming up on 60,000 gold total, and about 5,000 once they do cross that threshold. It's closer to 4, but you get what I'm saying. They're on their way. They keep playing this extremely well. I saw the Emperor's Armor aura come through, so Gamma is seeing the amount of pressure that is coming towards them. They want to try and farm up and hide under these towers as much as possible. I don't imagine the Valks want to get too aggressive unless that Fire Giant is pulled.
Gamma at max range from the Shadow Lock from Inbound, so you just had to sit there and stare at this team who was all just looking at Gamma, waiting to see if you'd go in. Inbound does get hit by the stun. Fire Giant pulled, but it was a bait to pull anybody forward. It's Aquarius who loses out on the beads early. A jump in by Scary D. Does find one with the ultimate, but it's only Aquarius. In the backline now is Kyrmi. Uses his dash to get away, and Scary D stepped a little too far forward, but Stuart is able to find one. BennyQ, half HP, Piercing Moonlight to get through, but Stuart will put him in the dirt. A double kill for the Hunter of the Solar Scarabs, and maybe more if Kyrmi gets caught out here, lose half his health, and the Scarabs will back away to the Fire Giant.
Yeah, the Valks collapsed on Scary D quite well, but they grouped up in that corridor. Big damage coming from Oboronic and Stuart alike, and now Inbound's just going to be on zone duty. There's no one here to zone, but they are just going to be watching out to make sure that Fire Giant goes down cleanly. Unfortunately, Scary D's not going to get that buff. He'll spawn in about 20 seconds as the gold lead does climb to 5,000. And I think this is exactly what Kyrmi needs to be doing. Take away as much farm as you possibly can. Gear up, because you got a base defense coming that's going to have to be solid. Fire Giant on 4 members of the Scarabs, and they're playing so clean. They have so much damage off the back of the 7-0 Heimdallr, as you highlighted. Stuart, he's just swinging.
Yep.
I mean, he's just swinging for the fences.
Swinging hard.
The prots are being shredded for him, and he's able to just last hit everything. He's doing a ton of damage as well, but he's getting a lot of credit for these kills.
Yeah, Stuart, 7-0 for himself on the Hunter roll. Nearly finished out his build already as he goes back and picks up his upgraded cowl and working in towards his Odysseus bow as a final item. So really get that attack speed up there on the Heimdallr, who's got a little bit of that slower attack speed chain compared to the rest of the other Hunters. I should say, has an attack speed
Not
chain
right now, though.
compared to a Hunter, but you could have fooled me with how fast this man is swinging right now. A 2.3 to his name, and should be, I think, right at the cap when that Odysseus Gibbo gets picked up.
Yeah, he's just swinging for the fences. Unfortunately, he's not on the batter skin, so we don't see him actually swinging for the fences. But either way, yeah, you gotta watch out. Someone has to try and just shut down Stuart, right? I'm not sure who's gonna get to them. Obviously, Kyrmi would love to blink in, get a ton, and force out something, but such a safe pick. This Heimdallr, the Bifrost, is always gonna be a good escape option, and I just don't see the damage. Your best option is trying to get BennyQ with the Piercing Moonlight to follow him through the Bifrost, but Aegis has been up. I mean, Stuart's got both relics for a reason. He hasn't been feeling too much fire.
Gemma stepped in to at least try and help the tower fire a couple more shots through.
The Emp armor.
But the Emperor's armor not going to do too much when the tower's already at a quarter HP. Fury respawning here in just a moment, and immediately the Solar Scarabs will group around it and take down their second Primal Fury, so that's going to be a nice little boost. Should they need to go for another Fire Giant after this, but with the pacing that the Scarabs have set, with the lead that they've established, we're 9,500 gold and XP up at this point in the game, Solar Scarabs might not need another Fire Giant.
Yeah, might not. There are some high points to highlight here for the Valhalla Valkyries, and I'll do that now. You got Wowy 2-in-1, who's still itemized quite well. He's got the kin size, he has Silver Branch, so he's got Pen and HP Shred. The issue I'm seeing, however, is that there's a lot of auto attackers on the Valhalla Valkyries, and Scary D has been pretty effective about getting to the backline, hitting those Furious Roars, and then hitting them with the Witchblade and the Jade Emperor's Crown Aura, which essentially means all these physical damage dealers, all these auto attackers, are just doing a lot less. It's an issue that the Valhalla Valkyries haven't really been able to stop just yet. They've killed Scary D, but they've lost the fight after the fact. So now they have their Phoenix to deal with. It could be an extra man that'll help them out in this fight, and I think that will be able to really highlight them.
We do have the fully upgraded Lonos Mask, the new Lonos Mask starter picked up by Inbound, so that's going to give him a little bit of that extra little oomph to, at least to his defenses more than anything else. But as he gets some of these newer stacks on there, provides a nice little aura over towards his team, some damage mitigation and some protections.
Yeah, you gotta love the new starter items, because they're just gonna help you out a ton in the late game. I mean, Lotus Mask entirely. I don't think we're gonna see too much of the damage one, unless a new spicy build arrives.
I would love to see it.
I would personally.
I loved Wrongdus Mask when you're doing like the full damage Guardian. Like, yeah, obviously I was doing it more like in arena games, but man, I think my favorite is whenever I picked up Atlas and I went full damage in a poly and I picked somebody up and I polyoned them, and it was basically a death combo at that point.
Yeah, there's nothing more satisfying than full damage Atlas with the big slam, and I think you were right to highlight that Primal Fury will come in clutch here, because the Solar Scarabs, they didn't decide to go and try and break the base. They're going for the Pyromancer. They don't have much time here. That Fire Giant buff will wear off in about 5 seconds. Scary D never got it, so we won't see it on him, but everyone else, you will see that fall off, and then another Fire Giant attempt will be coming here shortly. It's about 28 minutes, give or take, so it could be enhanced if the Solar Scarabs dawdle or the Valhalla Valkyries stall out. But it looks like their group is 5 trying to find a pick here. They've got some decent vision, so they're allowed to do this.
BennyQ and Aquarius are the ones here. BennyQ rooted, loses his beads right away. Scary D goes in. Piercing Moonlight is there for Benny if he needs to use it for the ultimate, and he will do so. Scary D does pick up Gamma. And Scary D now tossed it back in by Kyrmi, rooted in place. Scary D might be the one to go down. Dueling Dragon slams through BennyQ, and oBoronic finds the first kill of the fight. Gamma finds the dash away, and the Scarabs, grouped up as 5, can push into the Valkyries Phoenix because it's a weakened team over anything else. Gamma half HP. We saw Kyrmi had to escort himself out of the base and back to the fountain. The Phoenix goes down. And Inbound will as well, and maybe not the most ideal trade for the Scarabs.
I'm putting that one on the Emp armor, baby. Gamma gets credit for that kill, even though the Phoenix was the one that gets the actual credit. Now it looks like the Scarabs aren't done here. They are just going to sit by and wait, see if someone steps up. Kyrmi does have the beads available if he's the one that walks in. Aqua's not going to do it either. No one on the Valks wants to take the first step, and it looks like they will just defend this Trebuchet as the Scarabs back up. I don't imagine they want to go for the pull here without Inbound. It's a 4v4, and Scary D's going to back up.
So there was a ward up there that at least maybe had spotted them out, and then you saw Stuart and oBoronic both panic drop their wards to go ahead and deal with that one. But now the Scarabs waiting for Inbound. It's going to be 13 seconds before their support is alive.
That's double the vision.
And it is double vision.
Yeah,
was that a Foreigner song?
I was just saying, like,
Oh,
I was just saying if you drop 2 wards on top of each other, it's double the vision.
Could you imagine if it actually expanded
yeah,
a little bit
like
further?
multiplied your ward now.
So you get like 1 unit extra on each vertically at the very least there. But yeah, Solar Scarabs now with Inbound back in should be able to group up, and Trelly, we're sitting at a 12K deficit for the Valkyries. I mean, what's their win con in this fight to try and get back in?
I mean, their best option is to try and steal this objective and get out. I don't imagine they are able to win the fight outright unless just some massive damage coming from Wowy off the back foot here. He does have that build online that we highlighted. Their tanks are tanky. I mean, Gamma and Aqua are looking quite tanky. They can get in and just CC and soak up damage. And while that's happening, if BennyQ can hit a massive piercing Moonlight, he did finish the Heartseeker before that fight, so now he's really swinging with that damage. You got to hit it onto a key target, though. And Oboronic on his birthday has been popping off. These dueling dragons, you got to avoid that. Those are the win cons. BennyQ popping off, and do not get hit by that ultimate.
Yeah, got to avoid the dragon pushes that Boronic's been finding. 2- and 3-man ones consistently throughout the entirety of this game. The Scarabs are slow playing around the Fire Giant. Now that we cross the 30-minute line, it is enhanced. But even if it is enhanced, its health bar, it doesn't seem like it. It's already down to a quarter before the Ring of Fire even goes through. Dueling Dragons finds 2, and Wowy tries to find his path out. BennyQ will help him find a way out, and Scream gets back to near full HP after the damage through Scary D. Does pick up Gamma, throws him right back into the waiting arms of the Solar Scarabs. Gamma has no way to get out. Scream credited to the kill. The Scarabs find their first pick.
Yeah, Oboronic just did massive damage there to Wowy. Got both the relics down, and luckily the ult was all he needed to get out, but Gamma not so lucky as Enhanced Fire Giant gets started back up. Aqua has the blink available, but this is already going down so fast.
It's down to 10% health. Aquarius has got to get in now, but he will not find the steal. And he might not even find a path on out. He gets sent through the skies by Stuart, and on landing, Stuart will find the kill. Now 2 down for the Valks for another 20 seconds.
Yeah, 8-0 on this Heimdallr. That right Phoenix is already down. The health bars aren't looking too great for the Scarabs, but they're not afraid here. They want to run it down mid and try and grab this Phoenix. They have the man advantage for at least 10 more seconds, and they still will when Gamma spawns in, but it will help them out a little bit given the HP bars. I think you gotta let this Phoenix go down.
BennyQ loses the bees right away. Perfect target for Scary D. Perfect chance for Kyrmi to get in, but Boronic's Aegis. And the damage from Scream is enough to keep the Solar Scarabs mid laner alive. Scary D didn't get the blink that he was hoping there. Instead, will pay with his life. Wowy credit to the kill, and the Scarabs must disperse.
Yeah, and it looks like BennyQ does catch Stuart here. Is able to bring him a little bit further, and now Stuart's trying to fight.
Brought him to the rest of the team, but Aegis out of BennyQ now gone. Big damage from Stuart on return. But now the Solar Scarabs can get themselves out. A good try, at least by Benny, to reinitiate that fight. But so unfortunate for Scary D. Got clipped by something. It might have been like
the Caltrops.
The Caltrops are like a charge bow proc. Stops that blink and kills that fight entirely for the Scarabs.
Yeah, it happens so often where you're like, guys, don't worry, I'm going to blink in. And then all it was the Caltrops from Benny. Put him in combat, and he's like, I guess I can try. And again, I got to highlight it. Gamma's Emp Armor has been putting in some work. These Phoenixes do damage. Scary D was tanking up. He wasn't able to close gap and get in and out, and that Phoenix was able to shred through. Of course, Kyrmi blinks in. Was great setup for the rest of the Valks to make sure to defend that Phoenix. And the right Phoenix actually spawned back up as well. So we're in a pretty similar situation where Scary D doesn't have the Fire Giant buff once again. And that right side bird is back up. But what I do see, unfortunately for the Valks, is a 3K pot purchased for not only Stuart, who is 8-0 and swinging, but also for Scream. So expect that damage that we have been seeing to just be multiplied at this point.
Yeah, I was wondering what Benny was going to go for his glyph on the Jotun's Wrath. If he was going to go it, hoping it's going to be maybe the new one out there, that Jotun's Cunning, but instead it is going to be the Jotun's Vigor, so it's going to give him a little bit more lifesteal once he does drop below that HP threshold for the mid laner. And we know the kind of damage output that BennyQ can get. Couple that with the Soul Leader, and that's a lot of healing for the mid laner.
Yeah, it would help out. And look at the split that the Scarabs are going for here. Stuart and Scream in right, where Inbound, Scary D, and Oboronic are in left. A tanky mage 3-man squad in the left. They have the Oni minions, and they are looking at this Phoenix, but the Valks are here, and now the right side bird goes down.
More so going for the fight over anything else, and they find some good damage on the Gamma, who will be able to heal some of that back up. And it did force some members of the Valkyries over. So right side Phoenix that had respawn has been taken away. 2 split towards the mid, but Stuart now on the way to join the rest, so he'll leave his jungler all by himself in the mid lane. All ultimates up. Keep your eyes on who Scary D might be able to grab with that ultimate.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eyes on this left side bird as once again Scream and Stuart are looking for that mid Phoenix. They have dispersed their damage quite well with BennyQ over here and Wowy and Kyrmi in the mid. And Inbound taking a lot from that Phoenix because of the Emp Armor.
Scary D stunned the instant that he blinked in, and that's going to stop the Scarabs fight on the left side, but now that Stuart has Bifrosted back over the bird. Not looking so healthy for the Solar Scarabs, but Scary D in that same exact spot. He's at half HP. Fire Giant buff only for another 25 seconds. So far, all the Scarabs have done with it is be able to get one Phoenix. Inbound ults and finds two with it. Gamma rooted in place. Dueling Dragons will deal the final blow. oBoronic finally opens up a pick. Scream takes down the mid Phoenix in the 1v1. And now the Valkyries pushing out of the Phoenix and losing a lot of HP. Aquarius and Benny both low.
BennyQ has the ult and does decide to back off. It's up to Wowy, and I don't think that Phoenix will stand for much longer as all three birds go down. Enhanced Fire Giant falls off, and the Scarabs are able to back out. I don't think any chase will ensue. It looks like maybe Wowy was trying to chase that one down, but realized how many minions were going to be breaking the base here shortly, and they do just have to retreat. So a couple more power spikes coming the way of the Solar Scarabs. It looks like Kyrmi finally might be able to finish up that bill with Toxic Blade. Did get the heavy executioner as well. So some prot shred in spades coming from the Valks, but it's just taken them so long to get to that point. Gamma finally is getting some extra itemization as well, trying to get tanky enough to stand in front of this siege. It's just going to be real difficult to try and defend this one now. With three birds down, only a handful of teams have ever been able to come back from a situation like this in a pro setting, and now Enhanced Fire Giant, you really can't step up to. It's so difficult to make it that far up in the map when your base is just getting broken into from all sides.
With the excess gold that oBoronic had in hand, able to upgrade some of his relics. Not all the way for the Aegis, but gets his temporal bead, so that'll be a nice boost for him. And a Staff of Mirrodin as his final item. Recent change that did come the way of the Staff of Mirrodin. No longer gives you that cooldown benefit. Now it's just more power after charging your ultimate. Or I should say, more damage on your abilities, technically. And then with a red potion, keep your eyes on oBoronic's Dueling Dragons. They've been very impactful. I was trying to figure out the best word, and very was the first one that came to mind as far as his impact in these team fights, finding some crucial picks on these tanks. Now the Scarabs grouping around towards the Fire Giant, but it's the Valkyries who have the offensive slot.
Yeah, the Valks have to go in now because of this right here. The Fire Minions are on their base, and they have to get in and get out, or they're going to lose the game just off minions alone. Scary D blinks in.
Scarabs find Aquarius and find Gamma, who are in the backline. Scary D will deal with Wowy just fine. Kyrmi falling low. Scream goes down. BennyQ, credit to the kill. Thanks to the help of the ultimate. BennyQ, though, does get chunked by the fire, and oBoronic will find the kill. It's a one-for-one trade. Kyrmi went back to try and defend, but there are just too many Fire Minions. The Winions will take game number one for the Solar Scarabs.
I mean, the Valks did exactly what they had to, right? They had two options there. So they sit back, let the Enhanced Fire Giant come in and try and defend their Titan, or get it active as they possibly could. BennyQ finds the pick. They won the fight there for a bit, but you forgot about the Fire Giant minion. I mean, the Fire Minions. There's just too many of them. Obviously, Kyrmi tried, but and Erlang Shen's not going to be able to clear two waves of Fire Minions there. They just shred through that Titan. So I like that the Valks got active there and actually tried to fight, but a little bit too late at that point.
Yeah, I don't think they realized how many Fire Waves there. I mean, we saw the one come in from mid. We're like, okay, that's not going to be too bad. And we saw the one come in from left. I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. And then all of a sudden we pan back and there's like 5 Fire Minion waves there. Just maybe a little bit too much for the Valkyries to deal with.
Yeah, I think they needed to turn it on just a little bit earlier. BennyQ was doing so much damage.
Oh, yeah.
He was online, but again, no one was tanky enough to dive with him. Once they finally got to that point, unfortunately, the base was already broken.
Yeah, and with that one, the Solar Scarabs are able to take game number one over the Valkyries thanks to the help of some good minions. Can the Scarabs keep up the momentum in game two? We'll find out right after this break.
Yeah, girl, you're looking better than the photos. Need more of your time, so I'm watching you in slow-mo. Yeah, busy schedule, but it doesn't really matter when it comes to you. Yeah, I can wait till we're together, I can never get enough of you. Yeah, she said, what you want from me? Baby, what you want from me? Yeah, yeah, nothing but your company. Sitting on the top with me. Yeah, yeah, oh. Girl, I can give you the time of your life right now, right now. Give you the moment you never could have right now, right now. Let me in, let me in, let me in your world. Yeah, let me in, let me in, let me in your life. Yeah. Yeah. She got that vibe, she got that go-go. Ooh. She mesmerized with her eyes when she's so close. Yeah. You gon' see when you get to know me. I'll be right beside you when you're lonely. How you be swinging with that body, put it on me. Woo. Won't you be the body in my story? She said, what you want from me? Baby, what you want from me? Yeah, yeah. Nothing but your company. Sitting on the top with me. Yeah, yeah. She said, what you want from me? Baby, what you want from me? Yeah, yeah. Nothing but your company. Sitting on the top with me. Yeah, yeah. Oh, girl, I can give you the time of your life right now, right now. Give you the moment you never could have right now, right now. Let me in, let me in, let me
Welcome back, everyone, to the SMITE Pro League. The Scarabs up now 1-0 over the Valkyries, and Stu looks damn good throughout the entirety of the game. If you want to be able to play a little more like Stu, or just look, well, I guess have your games look as good as Stu looked, maybe you can also look as good as Stu looked by going to SMITEGame.com/Alienware and using code AWSMITE09 to get yourself a discount on some fantastic gear. They've got amazing laptops, which I will say, these things are incredibly powerful. Of course, the Aurora Ryzen R10 desktops that our pros are using, brilliant monitors, and more. So make sure, again, you go to SMITEGame.com/Alienware and use code AWSMITE09 to get discounts on all that. And thank you, Alienware, for being with us one more time. I've got Mifflin on the desk with me here. And Mifflin, a lot of the things you said should, well, hold on. I'm gonna take part of your job. The first like 10 to 12 minutes of that was a team deathmatch. They were just fighting a lot. And you had said the Valks maybe could have leveraged that a little heavier to have more of an advantage. Eventually, things just kind of spiraled out of control for him, though.
I mean, I'd argue that the early game should have belonged to the Valks, and I will stand by that. Compositionally, the early game should have belonged to the Valks. It did not belong to the Valks. The Solar Scarabs, sure, contentious in the early game in that there were kills traded back and forth, but I'm not sure that that lead ever really slipped away from them after that 10-minute mark. The Scarabs really just showed us that they struggle a bit at closing out matches, right? I mean, post 20-some-odd minutes, they were up upwards of 10,000 gold the entire time. A couple of overextensions from Scary D, I think, cost the Scarabs the ability to keep up their siege, especially around those Phoenixes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, once we got to that late-game team fight, the hypotheses we had come up with on the desk that maybe the Valhalla Valkyries composition wouldn't be able to line up against the Scarabs just seemed true. I believe, what was it, 3 triple kills from Stu throughout this one. Doesn't really struggle whatsoever with surviving the dive composition of the Valhalla Valkyries from this far behind in a new mid-season patch that seems to really, really deal well with frontliners.
Yeah.
Struggled to get into that backline, and the Solar Scarabs, they just look good for it.
Scary D gets 1 kill, and it was first blood. That's all that mattered to him. Very present, though. 12 assists for him and oBoronic, 13 there for Inbowned. 8, 0, and 6, though, picked up there for Stuart. Very, very potent for them. And again, just a lot, I think, of power that the Scarabs were able to showcase there. Like you said, maybe could have been cleaner towards the end. A couple of drops from Scary D that would have otherwise made the Scarabs win a little faster. And a Winions moment where we finally get to see that the minions do their finest job at the end. In fact, is that the first one of Season 9?
No way.
I feel like Season
Almost
8 we
certainly
had
not.
like way too many.
No,
Like it was
there were
an
plenty, bro.
unorthodox amount. Whereas this time around, like it's
Don't you have a
calmed down
counter?
on it.
You were keeping up with them.
Well, if I'm saying it's the first time, then I'm saying it's the first time.
There it
'cause,
is.
you know what? Here, I can go. I'll check. I'll double check my work, but I'm pretty sure I have not written anything down. Yeah, winning counter was 0 up to this point. So that's at 1. That's that doesn't feel great if you're the Valkyries being the first one. But
Happy birthday,
you know what?
Veronica.
I was gonna say it has to happen sometimes. The minions putting in their work. Also, fun fact: last triple double was in Season 7. So somebody get on that.
It was like Sam, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
I have it. Sam for soccer, Season 7,
Yeah, he was
Phase
doing it
2,
like every
Week
game.
7 versus the Renegades. Thanatos, he went 20, 11, and 10. And
That's
he
awesome.
barely got in there.
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure we'll see some more triple. I don't know. The kill counts are
Apparently
generally
they're
lower.
wildly rare, and now everything's dropped off. I mean, we're hardly getting 12 assists in that game, and that was a bloodbath.
Yeah. So maybe not triple doubles in a game 2 situation, but we will see adaptations. Huang taken off the table, Nemesis as well. The Valks not happy about Scream and Boronic's performance. We'll try and push them a little bit deeper into their own god pools. Previously, it was a first pick Erlang Shen for the Valkyries. I'm not really going to argue against an Erlang Shen in first slot, so going back towards it, I think one of the few pieces of that composition that was just going to work regardless. Great early game presence, decent linear initiation out of the jungle, and it is, of course, one of Kyrmi's best picks, so get him back on that comfort. The Solar Scarabs, on the other hand, well, they've got to think a little bit harder about their own selections. That Nemesis ban has replaced a Bastet ban, so it could be that the Solar Scarabs look towards taking that for themselves. Instead, Scary D gets to reprise his role.
It is something that could be, was, like you said, the Nemesis last time around. Could be jungle. Scream, though. Oh, well, I was going to say not uncommon for them to delay it, but probably trying to grab this Osiris before it can get banned away. Does have flexibility, technically could go solo. Has not been going solo over weeks and weeks past. I mean, a couple of games over there. But, a lot of the time, Mifflin, it has been this Erlang Shen versus this Osiris in the jungle. Similar kinds of pressure, similar kinds of presence and power curves that we're going to expect. Do either of the new items, any of the new items, really affect them? I know Scream in the interview said that, jungle didn't really change too much.
Heavy Executioner.
That's
build
good.
your Heavy Executioner, and outside of that, you could probably itemize even more so towards defense. Osiris never one struggling to defend himself, but with Tether, with Heavy Executioner as it is, you can essentially forego at least one damage item that you would have had to build previously. Get another dedicated defense item. You're still sitting at about 35% prod shred with all that survivability. Scream has been one to go towards Bumbas in first slot rather than the mannequins, so could slow down his early game a little bit, but imagine just like a Bumbas hammer, late game Osiris with heavy executioner just working his way through your back line with one more additional dedicated defense item. I think this is gonna be a pretty good patch for these frontline junglers.
Bifrost!
We'll also get to see whether or not this is a strong pickup. So last game it was Scary D that got first blood. Scream, though, leads the league in first bloods. If I can tap back over, I was just looking at it because, again, it's ridiculous how many he's been able to get. 8 right now is the number, closely followed by Cuvo and Twig, who are at 7 and 6. So very, very present in terms of where he is for the beginning of the game. And I was wondering what Hunter we were going to see, or more so, I guess, lack of Hunter, right? If they didn't pick this up, this Heimdallr, I imagine it would have been banned pretty quickly after Stuart's performance. So you get the Osiris, the Xing Shen, and now Heimdallr back for Stu. Feels like it's a good top 3 for the Scarabs.
Yeah, I thought we would see a bit of different itemization from Heimdallr with some of these newer items, but instead Stu goes back towards that tried and true standard, and with a performance like he had in the previous match, do whatever you want, man. You can build no items, and I wouldn't care if you're still performing like that. So I think still certainly very capable of playing the age-old classic build. Xbalanque on the other side has got some decent early game. Death's Toll now a bit more allowed. Gilded Arrow, not the bread and butter for every hunter, means that he's going to get free branching bola. Decent poke in lane as well. Poke, not exactly the name of the game. If it is going to be Xing Shen in support, I mean, very likely that it is solo, but we'll go ahead and think about it a bit. If it is Xing Shen in support, that HP 5 should be able to deal with the branching bola very easily. Decent way to deal with some of that auto attack damage as well. Would bring that flex potential from Osiris over to the soul lane.
Yeah.
Could open up the door to going towards some standard junglers, some assassins for Scream. The Solar Scarabs have got themselves a very adaptable composition with their first 2 picks, whereas the Valkyries on the other side, I think it's pretty blatant. They're playing. They've got their heart on their sleeve, if you would.
Yeah, Xbalanque, duo lane, Fafnir, duo lane, Erlang jungle, right? Very, very simple. I mean, Xbalanque, kind of, we've seen him get thrown over into the mid lane. And BennyQ plays some weird things, so it's never necessarily out of the possibility. But we'll have to figure that out. Artio Bologna banned out here by the Scarabs. Nox and Eset trying to limit the pool for Inbound on the other side. And they go for the Discordia. Now, if I remember correctly, Mifflin, Strife got a little bit of a dap up there in terms of damage numbers. And that's one of those abilities that just the CC on it, I love, personally. I just, the capabilities that it can bring to your team is good. Hitting harder makes me a happy man.
Yeah, and Discordia is also a god that's got inherent cooldown reduction, right? Hide inside of your stealth, cooldown start to go down. Has a built-in combo, Strife into Unruly Magic, so similar to how I was talking about you, Huang, with Perfected Rod as a Hootie, I think Discordia in a position that can leverage that item very, very well. A little bit more movement speed, a little bit more cooldown on a god that's already got pretty nice cooldowns for herself. Could make it that she's just like a late-game machine gun throwing out Unruly Magic multiple times in some of these team fights, so curious to see how this Discordia is itemized. On the other side, though, the Merlin lock-in, interesting in that I'm not certain how the changes are really going to affect Merlin. None of the new items really scream Merlin to me, but maybe less interesting in that we know Benny just plays this god.
Yeah, and plays it well when we've seen it. Whether or not it can win games, carry games, things like that. I mean, you had even said it before game number 1. The Valks isn't a squad. Like you look at the Scarabs. Honestly, you look at a lot of the teams. You can usually pinpoint 1 or 2 players where it's like that's going to be the guy who's going to carry. Like even if it's not because of him they won. Like you know, you look at the Kings. You'll see like BMT really good numbers, Netro had really good numbers, but like their front line is absolutely insane.
Yep.
But you look at the Scarabs. You can say Scream. You can say Stuart. Some games Boronic. Things like that. You look at the Valks. I mean, for a while, it kind of felt like BennyQ, maybe sometimes Kyrmi, but like it's very shaky as to who's going to stand out for their team, and that's what we got to see here is whether anybody can stand out or if their teamwork will make the dream work. King Arthur is the final lock-in here, which means that Xing Chen is being thrown over into the duo lane, much like you had said. The Osiris still going to be into the jungle, but how does this match up? I'm assuming here against the Achilles.
I mean, King Arthur doesn't lose lanes. That's
good point. That's a blanket statement. That's easy.
He just doesn't do it. He's going to be very survivable, has very high damage output, great boxing potential. Glad Shield still as it is means that you can really become a lane bully around that second item. after you go towards generally sovereignty in that first slot. Achilles has got some kill potential with the execute, so if Erlang Shen gets involved, King Arthur doesn't have the greatest juke potential for Fatal Strike unless he's got the empowered ultimate. But King Arthurs don't hold onto that ultimate for very long. Generally, they're just using it in lane for poke for the most part. Achilles decent sustain, should be able to hold his own up against King Arthur. I think more interesting is that the Xing Shen is going to support, has really good matchup into the Xbalanque in particular. So I like that flexibility of the Solar Scarabs. I'm almost certain, I'm willing to bet that when the Xing Shen was locked in, Scary D's thinking to himself, okay, cool, I get to play it again. But the Solar Scarabs, given a little bit more information, having looked at the draft holistically from the Valkyries, are able to make an informed decision that Xing Shen would likely just perform better in that support role, and they're able to make that adaptation very easily.
Now, I want to ask you a question I think is interesting, which is I'm going to preface it by saying this is a Scarab set, so theoretically they have to lose this game to go to 3. And so my question is this draft capable of finding an elusive 2-0 for the Scarabs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just a good composition, right? Like, it is standard SMITE. These are picks that just about every other team in the league has been playing, barring that Discordia, but still, you know, sprinklings here and there from these other teams. Good pressure, plays the Solar Scarab's strengths. Your early game has generally been where the Solar Scarabs make their money, and this is a composition that could do exactly that.
Yeah.
So, are they capable of 2-0? Absolutely. But considering how long it took them to end game 1 with the amount of lead that they had, shows me that the Valhalla Valkyries have got some fight back.
Yeah.
If they go into the mid to late game from an even state, I'm thinking this is a much more close matchup than maybe you would expect just looking at the slash lines of game 1.
Especially with how game 1 started to skew and, you know, farther and fewer in between where things were more powerful for the Scarabs here. Xbalanque feels a little more late game if we look towards the Valkyries and away from the Scarabs. You know, Erlang Shen gets you off to a really good start. Feels like the Merlin can get you off to a decent start as well. Xbalanque able to carry, Merlin burn late game. All really good. We'll find out whether or not it will work for the Valkyries. Game number 3 is on the line. Will they find it? Well, we'll have to go down to the casters and see.
Yeah, we'll have to get through game 2 first to see if the Valkyries can make it to that point. Thank you so much, Gore and Myth on the desk. It's J-Mac and Trelly back for game number 2. Now between the Valks and the Scarabs. And kind of as mentioned back at the very beginning of the Decimate, kind of a must-win for the Scarabs. When you're going up against a team technically below you in standings, you got to be able to find those wins. The Valkyries, at least in game number 1, though, Trelly, did prove they still have some fight even when they are at such a deficit.
Yeah, they got some fight in them, but take a look at Wowy in your screen. He's not wearing, we realize this, he's not wearing his flannel.
Yeah, he doesn't have the flannel.
He always wears the flannel.
I don't think
Gamma started wearing it as well.
Oh, actually.
And now Stuart's got the flannel, so what's going on here?
That's the ultimate power move.
Yeah.
Stuart looked over and said, these guys aren't wearing the flannel.
Yeah.
Maybe I just wear it instead.
Well, Stuart said, like, we're going up against the Valks. I'm going to beat them in the flannel game. And then Wowy said, I'm not even going to wear it. So at the moment, I'm not sure if that puts them on their game or they're just so confident they don't need the flannels. We'll have to see as the game goes on. But Aquarius actually going into the Warriors axe here, something that we haven't seen in a good while in that solo lane meta. And just 2 Warriors also, because for so long it was just Guardian v Guardian Conduit Gen, but it's nice to see Achilles and King Arthur duking it out in the lane here, just, you know, seeing who's going to get the pressure. 2 Warrior jungles, of course, Erlang and Osiris. That's nothing new, but, you know, I like seeing the Achilles v King Arthur matchup.
Yeah, what happened to all of our Guardians we had over in Soul Lane for so long? Seems they're going to be taking a back foot this game as the Guardians have moved over into the support role this time. Inbound going to be piloting the Xing Shen as compared to Scary D last time around. So that does kind of, in my opinion, Charlie, it feels like it makes it easier for the Soul Laners and the junglers because now they don't have to try and itemize towards both defenses early on. They can kind of just rush some early Fizz defense and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, it does seem like that's the play. Aquarius, however, looks to me like that's a Golden Blade start with the Warriors axe, so trying to clear the wave a little bit more effectively without using those abilities. It will go a long way, but it does make you susceptible to some ganks. Aquarius did go for the teleport as well. If Fatal Strike, his ultimate, gets body blocked, could be some trouble, so I do expect to see Scream throwing some presence over towards that soul lane, just based off of build and relic alone. I think Aqua's going to have to be pretty much here the rest of the game, like at that tower line, or else could be in some trouble, unless, of course, Kyrmi blinks in. We've seen him get aggressive early on once you get that 9 turns blessing, so we could continue to see that.
Scary G falling a little bit low. Aquarius is winning out that boxing match. That Warrior's Axe giving him a little bit of heal anytime that he can land one of those abilities on that cooldown timer at the least. So as far as the sustained game, Scary D is going to have to depend on the last few potions that he has. Aquarius down to just his final one. And over into the duo lane, pressure. Still the name of the game for the Scarabs this time around. The Xing, Shen, and Heimdallr putting in some work. Aquarius finds the stun, uses one of his dashes, and that might be curtain call for the solo laner, but Kyrmi will find an immediate return back, a 1-for-1 trade of the solo laners, but the first blood goes to the Scarabs.
Yeah, and more specifically goes to Scream. Top first bloods in the league, and he's not gonna stop there. That stat was brought to you by our local statistician Gore Miser, who told me, you know, before the game even started. So at least I knew to look out for that. That's why I was keeping my eyes on
Okay,
Scream. He just likes getting active early, and Osiris with the Mannequin Scepter, certainly one to do so. Inbound did hold on to that hog, so unless Gamma gets in here with some crazy steal potential, I don't imagine that buff will get stolen away. And Gamma also has the hog as well, so this purple buff I imagine won't be looked at either way. You love looking at these supports, making sure to just keep the next buff spawn in mind. You could always just use the hog on the first buff, but then you're opening yourself susceptible to that second round gank, and you don't want to be losing your purple buff there. So I think smart by both of them to hold on to that. As we get to see what Scream will do with that first blood bounty. At the moment, Kyrmi's up in XP, already ticking over to level 5. Doesn't have the blink available, but that 9 turns blessing could open up some doors here depending on where he wants to get active.
Yeah, we did see Scream as well tick over towards 5, but first back of the junglers goes to Scream. He gets his stone cutting sword right away. So not going to be going into the Golden Blade. We've been seeing a lot of the junglers go to. It seems that just this Mannequin Scepter is enough, but Scary D's used a lot of his mobility to try and get out. Has the CC immunity with his max charge ult to find a way out. So ult for ult trade, but that one's definitely going to favor Scary D.
Yeah, if Scary D hit someone with that ult, could have been in some trouble there if they were able to body block that one, but used it perfectly to immune out the 9 turns blessing. As Kyrmi also goes for the stone cutting sword, but Scream's not looking for anything but this duo lane gank, and early on Gamma jumps.
Jump on by Gamma, jump in by Scream, but under the tier 1 tower will not be safe. Stuart goes to the ultimate, ends up getting the beads away from Wowy as well. Second kill on the board for the Scarabs, and Scream continuing to be active on the map.
Yeah, I really thought Gamma might have been out there. Just so much damage coming from not only the Mannequin Scepter, but Stuart was able to pump some autos and even underneath that tower to make sure that one went through. And Wowy losing the beads right at the tail end of that is getting re-ganked here, as it looks like he will hold on to that dash to immune the tether. But here comes Kyrmi now. He's still trying to fight.
We're going in. Stuart's low on mana, but Kyrmi doesn't want to fight into a full minion wave against 2. With no ultimate available to him, that means no heal. I don't imagine that Stuart and Scream will stick around much longer, especially with Gamma making his way back towards the lane now. The Valkyries, their hunter, at least gets to hold on to his life.
Yeah, Gamma made the way over them, and it looks like the gold lead certainly is in favor. Inbound, though, is making the rotation over to this blue buff. Aqua has the ult available, but no beat, so we'll have to use it if Inbound goes for the ult to try and steal this one away.
Inbound goes in. Instead, he'll use his own ultimate to throw both Aquarius and the buff away. Inbound will pick up the buff, and that will be the end of that. Solar Scarabs get their prize of a blue buff, making sure to keep Aquarius down, who still hasn't gone back to base, still sitting on that tier 1 katana.
Yeah, but now Inbound gets the blue buff, and that's the real win here, because as a support, you know, you gotta buy usually some health pods, some multi-pods, some wards. You never really get too much MP5. You gotta hold your abilities, but not gonna be the case now. Inbound can send out those furious roars pretty much whenever he wants. Already has the Gauntlet of Thebes online, whereas Gamma isn't gonna be stacking that one for a bit longer, so a little bit of a win there as well in favor of the Scarabs. As we take a look at that gold lead, it has been climbing since Scream's been getting active. 1,200 about in favor for the Scarabs, and they're not letting off the gas, as you highlighted. It just seems like wherever they can find some action, they're going for it. But you know, Wowy's speeds are down, and Inbound's not leaving this lane.
No, with Stuart stepping up aggressively, Wowy knows that something has got to be up. Something was Inbound lurking through the jungle. Still there. Solo battle, Aquarius up in mana, but Scream has rotated over. Aquarius has that fatal strike. He'll get out, an ultimate dive in by Scream, but a stun even better by Aquarius, but he didn't get far enough out from the tether, and it's just going to take a couple of shots by Scream, but he misses the sickle immediately afterward. Aquarius has found a way on out thanks to some lucky footwork by him.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. The stun did not last as long as Scream thought, and the sickle didn't come through. The Mannequin Scepter autos weren't enough, and Aqua gets to live there and teleport back in pretty scot-free. Good rotation over by the rest of the squad as well to make sure that one goes through. So now we get to see the Aqua did go for that Golden Blade strat. Will help him clear the wave, but it looks like Gamma could be getting looked at. Has a leap available, so I don't think he'll be in too much trouble here. You're not really able to force out too much from a Fafnir this early on, but Sovereignty purchase for Scary D, we already highlighted. When you're up against a physical solo laner and a physical jungle, this just works out so well, and it's going to come in handy because it looks like, oh, never mind. I was going to say, maybe Kyrmi wraps around, but he recognized immediately. That's a lot of protections.
Well, Scary D goes up into the ultimate just to get some damage up against Aquarius. Not going to go under the tower, but I mean, that fancy footwork from Aquarius earlier on, able to juke out a few autos, juked out the ultimate, and we get a nice perspective, at least from Aquarius' perspective. Did get the ult, sidestepped away, got a nice stun there, and Aquarius just showing off a little bit of that prowess, and then that stun maybe not lasting as long as Scream had hoped, and Aquarius is able to dash his way out. Great play by the solo laner to keep himself alive.
I think the Warrior's Axe proc might have been the saving grace there. He went from 55 HP to up to like 160 and then back down to 55 after the auto attack went through. So I think the Warrior's Axe healing, something that these junglers aren't used to playing against. It's been so long since the big, it's essentially like just a little tick that you're like, wait, they got a little heal here. I didn't know how much damage is going to come through. And again, great play by Aquarius to make sure to juke out the Lord of the Afterlife and win that one. Stuart teleporting in, would love to get Wowy's beads down once again, but Wowy's playing very safe in this lane and under a ton of pressure. Once again, Inbound hasn't really left. He went over to the blue buff once and then has been showing a lot of presence towards the Xbalanque, trying to make Wowy's life miserable. As long as you're holding on to that dash and not really getting connected by too much, you should be fine. And Gamma actually backs for the full Bracer of Brilliance very early on, so that tells me we could be looking at some early Gold Fury pulls here by the Valks.
Yeah, it's typically the name of the game when we see these comps with Fafnir is they want to play around Pyros, they want to play around Gold Furies, and maybe we'll get to see that just a little bit sooner since that one has been upgraded so early on. But that's a lot of gold investment. That's 800 gold. Technically that he's going to be behind Inbound now for Gamma, at least, until Inbound starts leveling up some of his relics. It's going to put him a little bit behind on his items. For now, the Valkyries have been fairly content with just trying to farm up. Ult in by Scream. Gets the ult from Kyrmi, but Kyrmi is low on mana. Stun from max range out of Scary D. And the overhead swing is good. Scary D picks up his first kill of the game. And now a 2v2, could be more if Inbound and oBoronic find their way in fast enough. But the Solar Scares find their one pick in the jungle.
Yeah, Scream hits that Lord of the Afterlife, makes sure that no heal comes through from Kyrmi with that 9 turns blessing. And a pretty easy gank there. Looks like Scary D wanted some more, as also the blue buff was looked at and was stolen away. So the Valhalla Valkyries will not get to give Aquarius that one. Again, it seemed like Scary D wanted some more there, was trying to go on to BennyQ, then realized, you know, I don't have too much magical protections here. I don't think I'm going to gamble with the Conduit Gem, Chronos Pendant, Merlin this early on, and just decides to take the small win and back off there. Once again, though, Kyrmi did get off to a decent start with that return kill onto Scary D early on, but besides that, hasn't been able to get too much of his own farm just because of that. A 1-level lead at the moment for Scream, and should only continue if the presence that we've seen from the Scarabs continues at this rate.
And that pressure for the Scarabs has netted them about a 2,500 plus gold and XP lead over the Valkyries. So you take a look at the charts. Well, the XP is kind of mitigated a little bit, but 2,700, nearly 3K gold up for the Scarabs with just a few kills and maybe a little bit more. Aquarius picked up by the ult out of Scary D, but with no jungler here, Aquarius should be fine. And such as maybe a bit of the downside of going this offensive style of item first slot compared to Scary D, who's just gone for the full defense.
Yeah, it's one thing if your character relies solely on auto attacks, but I think that Achilles has a fair bit of clear already. You just don't want to use your dash on the wave, and I think Aqua is a little bit safer because of that. We've seen a few ganks come through where it looked like Aquarius might die, but he's holding onto that combat dodge well and able to get out of trouble. But it also, as you highlighted, you don't have as many protections and you can't stay in lane as long. So it will be quite some time before Scary able to, or Aquarius rather, is able to get to the back line effectively. You would love some extra protections there. But since we already touched on the fact that the Scarabs have been so active, and given the way that Gamma's itemized, it might be the Scarabs actually that are trying to go for an early pull, just looking for some extra damage. Pyromancer certainly could be looked at given the auto attackers. You know, Scream's got a ton of shred for that objective with the stone cutting sword, the Mannequin Scepter, and the second item Golden Blade.
Some damage from oBoronic, gets a leap from Gamma. Oracle Harpies to the Scarabs. Vision for the Valkyries around the Pyromancer, though. We did see Kyrmi drop a ward over the wall just to see if maybe the Scarabs try and pull an early objective, but with Scream's rotation to the right lane, that'll at least slow down for the Valkyries. A successful blue buff invade by Scream while he was on that side of the map. And as we started looking a little bit at the XP, mostly advantage on the right side of the map. Scary D and Scream both up about a level to their opposition. And word be damned, Scream is just gonna pull the Pyromancer and take that one away.
Wow.
No one from the Scarabs even walking towards the jungle.
That's not even what I'm surprised about. The Valks knew that they were on the Pyromancer and didn't pull Goldfear. They were all on it. It seemed like Gamma, Kyrmi, and BennyQ were all sitting there waiting. They had the Draconic Transformation, and they decided not to go for it simply because they didn't want to deal with the Oracle Vision, I'm supposing. So it looks like the Valks are just going to have to let that one slip through their fingers and try to get as much farm as they can elsewhere, because they are going to lose a little bit of gold in that regard. Gamma could be in some trouble here, does have the leap, and Inbound's going to try and force it, but Stuart's more focused on the wave, so I don't imagine Fafnir's ever going to be the target he wants.
Yeah, Stuart back on the Heimdallr, and 8-0 game last time around for the Hunter of the Solar Scarabs. Wants to try and keep it as close to that again in game 2 as possible. And with the lead that the Scarabs have already established themselves, might not be as difficult as you might think. 4,500 gold up.
Wow.
And experience. The Scarabs have been slow bleeding the Valkyries out, and the Valkyries have not been historically the greatest team from behind.
Yeah, and this is, I think, last game about this point, this is where I said, you know, the Valks, where are you going to draw your line in the sand? Where are you going to say, I'm not giving this up anymore, we're going to fight? At the moment, it doesn't look too good for them. They are going to find some damage on a Scream early on. He will have the Aura of the Afterlife to try and run away, and now oBoronic could be in some trouble.
oBoronic does leap away, but it was only Gamma who chased him in, so no further follow-up onto the mid laner. Some damage thrown through by oBoronic, but a little bit off the mark. And we haven't really got to talk about the Discordia much just because we haven't really seen oBoronic have to get active on this god just yet.
Yeah, one of the lowest in player damage because it's just been Warlock, Sash, Sands of Time, same style of build, and I'm going to farm. I don't want to get active too early on. The Scarabs sent this Trebuchet left, so that tells me they want to get active here. I'm not seeing the Goldfear being pulled, more so just a rotation towards the buffs. Red buff already went down, and maybe they're setting up for the possible purple buff invade as the Trebuchet is already dead.
Yeah, Trebuchet didn't even get but one shot at the very end of its own life. So not much value, at least from that objective, for the Solar Scarabs. They can start stacking up a new one, though, as those offerings have respawned themselves. Scary D will waltz his way through the tower.
Over.
Yeah, just take a casual stroll through the tower just to get to some proxy farming, but all that pressure to the right side has allowed the Scarabs now group up on the left and maybe take an eye over at this Goldfear, or at least just grab the Oracles once again.
Oh no, Inbound is going to make sure that Wowy's not able to grab that purple buff just yet. And it looks like Gamma will rotate over to try and help his duo lane and make sure that this buff goes their way. His Inbound is actually leaping in here. Is going to have to run away eventually. You're not tanky enough to sit here forever. Stuart came over, but the only attempt you really got is your Furious Roar. And since it's down, I don't imagine Inbound has any chance of taking that buff away. But you know, Pyromancer dropped a fair bit ago. The Valks have just been, you know, trying to bide their time and get as much farm as possible. Your words, stop the bleeding. And so far, not so good. They really haven't been able to force anything, but they also haven't lost any massive objectives since then. They're sort of just letting this gold lead climb ever so small, ever so slowly in favor of the Scarabs.
Yeah, it's just that slow burnout style. The Scarabs have just recently kind of started adapting. This isn't normally a team who tries to find their leads through just some good map play. You know, not a team that is more accustomed to sitting back and kind of passively farming up their lanes to build up their lead. Normally, the Scarabs have been a very scrappy nature of team. The first 15 minutes is nothing but W key and whatever abilities you got active to slap them down. This new Solar Scarabs, we got to see a little bit of a light of it when they were playing against the Bolts last week. I thought maybe we'd see some shines of the old there, but Stuart just a little off the mark with his ultimate.
Yeah, Stuart went for the ult there. Gamma was able to shoot that one out and jump away, and no more fight will continue. If that ult did hit, possibly a brawl towards that Goldfear, or at least some kill potential onto Gamma. As just so tanky on this Fafnir. Has been looked at time and time again. Some presence going his way. Only has fallen once, and since then hasn't really been in any danger. Not too much kill opportunity. Once again, though, we're looking at this lane where Scary D is able to accrue a 2-level lead and just bully Aquarius as much as possible. This tower's looking a bit worse for wear as well, pretty close to falling down. So I expect to see once Scary D does get this tower, immediately upgrade that teleport, join the team, and look at this Goldfear. I think that'd be a great play. And given the fact that Aqua doesn't have teleport, I think that play could happen right about now.
You know, we'll see Scary D go back to base. So we'll see if that teleport does get upgraded. Maybe work on that cloak that he has in the second tier, but It'll be a heroic teleport picked up now for Scary D and immediately use it to go to the left side of the map as the Gold Fury has been started up and nobody on the Valkyries can even get close. The Solar Scarabs are just controlling the entirety of this map. And it's not even like they've had to find pick after pick after pick to get these objectives. They're just simply walking up to objectives and taking them.
Yeah, I mean, they were just down a man at that point. They knew Scary D was backing in. You know, once your tower goes down, Aqua can't match that rotation pressure. His teleport's not up for another 30 seconds, so once you see that, and unfortunately it looks like the Pyromancer spawned in right at that time, so this is where the Valks need to take a stand and say, we're not giving you another objective for free. We're going to take it before you get a chance, but they're not even going for the Pyromancer. They're just going for Harpies at this point. They're not even pulling.
Yeah, they're just getting their farm game. Now back towards the Pyromancer.
There we go.
It is started up, and Embracer was dropped out by Gamma. Transformation into his draconic form. Inbound is here. Will use his first leap to get away, second one to get out of the taunt.
Oh.
But the Solar Scarabs steal the Pyromancer away from what looks like a shot from Scream over the top. Kyrmi goes back in, low mana, not sure that's the fight that you want to try and pick. Scary D will be able to dash away, gets stunned out by Gamma, but that's Gamma's leap to get into the midst of this one. The failed strike, body block, so Aquarius is now down an ultimate. Oboronic is now up a kill as he's found one. Ultimate in by Scream on top of Wowy. We'll get the Hunter out, and the Golden Apple will only hit BennyQ. No further kill on there, but a kill onto Aquarius instead.
Yeah, two are going to fall down in the Scarabs. Surely they're not about to pull that Fire Giant. You don't have the HP for this one, but they're going to try. They don't have anyone who can tank this. Unless BennyQ walks up, it could be for free. And BennyQ should be, but they're burying this so fast. They don't need someone to tank it.
Gotta be fast. BennyQ's on the way. Scary D at the line. We'll make sure to zone him out. The Solar Scarabs pick up an 18.5-minute Fire Giant off the back end of a single kill, and now 10K gold. What a turnaround. What a new, revitalized Solar Scarabs we're getting to see in this match, Trelly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in game number one, we saw the one mistake where it seemed like Scary D dove that tower. No mistakes so far this game. You got one death. That Scary D, I mean, it was a great fight for first blood, so it ended up working out. That's the one falter that they've made, and I wouldn't even call it that given the fact that Scary D is 3 levels up against his opposition in Aquarius. So, yeah, the Scarabs have been playing some great calculated smite, despite the fact that Gamma, it seems like Gamma was prepared for this, you know, upgraded that Bracer, got the Emp Armor early on, looks like he's itemizing into the Shoguns, trying to, you know, bunker up underneath the base, bunker up underneath these towers, defend as much as possible. The Scarabs don't seem too concerned. They're just sort of waltzing up the lane as we saw Scary D do a bit ago, and now they're going to get this tier 1 tower and left, grab the tier 2, and they just have a ton more gold to grab. This is an 11K, 10K gold lead without getting towers. It's 1 tower and right. There's going to be a lot more gold to come.
It'll just start slowly pouring in. I can't even say slowly. It will just start finding its way into their, avalanching into their pockets at this point. As tier 1 and left already gone, tier 2 will not be much longer of this world. Look at how, I mean, Stuart is hitting him for 230 in auto at this point. I mean, the towers do not stand a chance against the Scarabs. There's already a nice influx bonus towards them. And with mid-tier 1, mid-tier 2, and solo lane tier 2 still available, the Solar Scarabs can just essentially just pull off a heist and take every single one of the towers, grab all this gold, and talk about a massive boost in power once they go back to base to spend it all.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's a heist if no one's like guarding the safe, you know? Like at this point, I guess the Phoenix is the safe. They're like, you can have the cash register, you know, you can have the change that we left out, but we're gonna guard the diamonds in our base, and we'll see if the Solar Scarabs are able to pull that one off and try and go for that. But given the fact that they have even more gold in pocket at the moment, you know, Brock's gonna have close to 3K once this tower does drop. Then they're gonna go back, get another power spike, and then finally be able to push through here. Given the fact that it's only 20 minutes in, you know, this is not break the base Phoenix Siege time. The Solar Scarabs have put themselves in that position, but this is not the usual time. So those Phoenixes are still going to swing. You still have to balance, you know, the Phoenix aggro well, and the Solar Scarabs, I think, playing extremely smart, saying, hey, we are massively ahead, but we have to play this as perfectly as possible. We don't want to give the Valks an avenue back into this game. BennyQ still sitting 0-0. Wowy still sitting 0-0. Their carries have itemization online. They can't just run at this Phoenix willy-nilly.
No, so we'll get to see maybe a first look at the actual defense and team fight that the Valkyries have. And we saw a bit of a scuffle over by the Fire Giant. That fight, though, got very heavily split up. I mean, BennyQ was so far back during that fight. But now our first look at the siege of the Solar Scarabs and at the siege defense of the Valhalla Valkyries. Full 5-man, Inbound goes in with an ultimate on towards 1, and as soon as Gamma lands, he'll transform to stay alive. Scary D is low, Golden Apple will hit Wowy. Gamma leaps away, so he doesn't eat the second half of it, but Scary D falls low, but Scary D can come right back in. A nice place ward by a teammate will bring the Soul Laner back to full HP.
Yeah, you could tell oBoronic mistimed the apple just a little bit there. Wanted to hit Gamma on the transformation, a little bit off the mark, so the kill won't go through, which means the siege won't go through. Scary D does have the teleport available, but decided against it. Isn't going to teleport in for that Phoenix. Just grab the Oni Fury, get as much gold as you can, and that tells me the Scarabs are still going to play this as calculated as possible. That siege didn't go the way they wanted to. They didn't lose anyone, and they decided, you know what, it's probably time to back off here, and we can just play for the next Fire Giant, because we've already highlighted that was an extremely early fire to try and break the base, and I think probably smart to just call that one off. You got a 12k gold lead, close to 13 at this point. You might as well just set up for this Pyromancer, this next FG, and then you can try to steal those diamonds.
Do see.
I love this analogy, by the way.
Yeah. It's a nice little one that we've got going through it at the very least. The diamonds, the gold bars, whatever's in the safe, whatever you find more valuable. Would a gold bar actually be more valuable than a diamond? I guess it depends on the size of the diamond. Depends how big the gold bar and how big the diamond is. I guess in this analogy, we'll have to figure that out at one point. But 1-0-1 for oBoronic in the mid lane. Hasn't had to get super active early on. Stuart 0-0-3, which isn't bad. It just feels a little underwhelming compared to the last game he had, the 8-0-1 pop-off, but
still
again,
hasn't died this set.
Yeah, still hasn't died. That's good. I believe he actually get extra fantasy points for going an undying game. So, hey, props to Stuart for keeping himself alive and at least staying a little bit active throughout these team fights.
Well, I kind of hope that he dies now, just so he
don't
get those points.
Don't do that to
I
me.
want him to have a good game, but I don't want you to get that many extra points.
Why would you curse me like that, man?
It's a competition. What do you mean?
Look, all I'm saying is I haven't won a single week yet, but I think I'm still sitting at the top, if not like second, as far as fantasy points are concerned. And maybe with a week like this from the Scarabs, that can change. They take the Fire Giant. They march up the right side. Scream goes in, finds 2 with the tether. BennyQ will be able to get away. The Phoenix under fire, but Gamma's Emperor's Armor coming back through. Oh, Golden Apple goes off the mark as Gamma able to get over it. And the Solar Scarabs will back away from the bird.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for how much damage this Phoenix is doing to the tanks. Inbound was tanking that one up, got extremely low, has to back off. But the bird is a little bit under half HP. You have a chance to try and go for it once again. It looks like the Scarabs are doing what they did last game, going for the 2-3 split, and then immediately calling it off and going back to the 5v5, because this Phoenix is low. If they wait out the Draconic Transformation, which they've done, they've got an opening here.
Now they've got their chance. Phoenix is swinging a little bit faster, though, because of Gamma. And the Phoenix isn't taking a lot. Inbound goes in with the ult, only finds Aquarius, and Wowy will find Inbound. Good turnaround by the Valkyries on defense. They shut off the lights, and they shut down the support.
Yeah, and this is the issue with trying to tank that up. I honestly think, you know, a good item for Inbound would be that Emperor's Armor, trying to counteract what Gamma's able to do. You know, the Valhalla Valkyries are able to just bunker down under this base, and you know, they've got enough buffs here with the Frenzy and the Bracer that Gamma has, with the Shoguns and the Draconic Transformation. They can say, we're going to defend this as much as possible, and we'll just let the Phoenix do. I wouldn't be surprised if Phoenix has top damage at this point, just with how much it's able to do in those fights. And it looks like Inbound's building into it. I promise you that's going to be an Emp Armor. He realized right there in that fight, like, okay, that thing's swinging. If I'm taking this up, like, someone needs to get an Emp Armor.
All right, guys, funny joke. Phoenix hits hard, it hits fast, fine. I'll go ahead and buy into the item. We'll see whenever he's able to finally pick that one up. Still 2 minutes left on the Fire Giant for the Solar Scarabs. They haven't been able to get much off of that one. They didn't get any of their kills. They couldn't get that Phoenix. All they did was drop it down a little bit low. But I think you're kind of maybe right to highlight the fact that this split that they're going might be the best way that the Scarabs could break the base of the Valkyries.
Yeah, interestingly enough, we see the heavy execution from Scream. That's nothing new. He picked that up last game, but Kyrmi has itemized into the Furious Executioner. So switching that up, we'll see which one is going to benefit the other. Again, we knew the heavy executioner was more fit for these warrior jungles because you're never going to get your attack speed that high, but this Ferocious Executioner, with how much Kyrmi wants to build into attack speed with the way that Erlang Shen works, it could pay dividends for him. He's going to be doing a ton of damage.
Well, we will see if that one pays out. Actually, thinking about it, does the Erlang dog proc that? Like, proc one of the stacks of it? Because it's technically like an ability with your passive, if you think about it like that. So maybe Kyrmi could get an immense amount of value if whoever he's hitting even lives long enough to get those kind of full stacks up there. But for now, the Solar Scarabs grouping up 2 left, 2 mid, 1 right. A very odd split between them. No range damage at any of the Phoenixes just yet. Stuart is here with Scream. And it'll be a 3-2 for the Valks against the 2-3 of the Scarabs. And they're just going with this really weird split. They've been leaving Stuart and Scream together more often when they do these splits.
Yeah, I mean, and now the Valks, really all I have to do is try and body block Stuart's autos, because it's not like oBoronic is going to be getting this very quickly. I think the Valks have done this quite well, depending on if that Trebuchet really starts to add up. I think that's the one thing that maybe they didn't plan for. If only Wowy and Aqua are here to defend it, never mind. The Scarabs just back off. They have the Trebuchet here, and they just left.
They showed up, they knocked at the door. The Valkyries opened the door and said, hey, what's up? And they said,
they just got ding-dong ditched.
Yeah, they really did.
They knocked on the door and they ran away. And
they just left.
Yeah, unfortunate. I guess, you know what? Inbound doesn't have the Emp armor yet, so not the call. That Primal Fury will give him enough gold. He's going to back and buy it. Don't make me wrong. Don't go mid-guard. Get it right now. Come on.
Does he have enough?
Let's
go.
There
so
you go. Got the
Emperor's armor.
And that's why they didn't step in. So that makes sense. I mean, I'm running the numbers. Everything adds up. They're going to go for one more Fire Giant.
He's got the TI-84 out right now. He's actually running those numbers.
I'm running the numbers. It adds up. They're waiting for EFG. They have Emp armor. That's the game plan. The Scarabs, they've got this down to a science. And given the fact that Wowy and Aquarius are actually on top of the damage charts, they have stalled this one out quite well. The Valks, they realize what they need to do. They've kept their birds alive, and now that they're able to 5v5 at this enhanced fire. And again, it's not going to be enhanced just yet, but if they stall out as long as they did last time, could be enhanced.
Probably will.
And I think the Valks are pretty happy about how they've played this thus far, despite the fact that the lead is so much in favor of the Scarabs gold-wise. They've essentially just been biding their time, stalling, until they could get to this point exactly.
I mean, we're sitting 16K gold in the lead right now for the Scarabs, and item plus up ahead for everybody, but the Valkyries have been biding their time into these Phoenixes. That Emperor's armor has been paying dividends for Gamma.
Oh, yeah.
Helped get a kill earlier on. I think that was in game number 1, ended up getting him a kill. In game number 2, it's been forcing the Solar Scarabs back. So for the Valkyries, now that you are in this this chance that you can actually fight back at the Fire Giant, Charlie, is that where they finally draw their line in the sand and say, we need to fight here? Or do you imagine they'll just kind of maybe give this one up and hope that they can stop at the Phoenixes?
I mean, the issue with that is there's no Phoenix at the Fire Giant, so you can't force someone to tank that much damage. You're still down like 15,000 gold if you're fighting at FG. So I imagine they are going to try, but you know they have to figure out how much damage they can tank, how much their tanks can actually be effective towards that like FG jungle fight. And if they realize pretty quickly on like this is going bad, you got to go back to the bird and do what you've been doing best. You have a lot of buffs on your squad. Gamma's been able to help out the team a lot with the draconic transformation and the girdle and all the different buffs that he has. So they feel very safe there. When you leave your little hidey hole, that's when it might get a little messy.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that the Frenzy is there, the Bracer's there, you have draconic transformation, and you've got a Shogun's Scar.
And Emp armor.
And an Emp armor. Well, the Emp armor is not going to do him too good in the jungle.
That's what
effectively
I'm saying. That's why you
just
want to
some
feel
stats.
safe. Yeah.
But at that same point, I mean, that leaves an immense amount of objective pressure if the Valkyries are given even just a moment at this Fire Giant where the Scarabs are caught slipping. So for the Scarabs, get in there, get that ward control out there, and make sure that you have the pressure and make sure that you can stay up at the front line and hold them back.
Yeah, and I think, again, the Scarabs have been playing this quite well. They have the 2 Fire Giants, but they haven't been able to break the base yet. I like the idea to split up the Valks, but I think maybe just putting Inbound with 2 carries and then letting Scream and Scary D go off, that would be a better option to try and get those birds down. We'll just have to see how they decide to play it.
Well, we will get to at least see what the Valkyries are going to go for at this Fire Giant. So spawn in right now, and immediately the Solar Scarabs will start their pull. oBoronic throwing out some abilities to get some damage up against the Valks. Fire Giant to a 3rd. And only BennyQ has stepped within the realm. Scary D missed out on hitting that ultimate. But now the Scarabs will go right back to the fire. Inbound goes for the ult, but it's a zoning ult to make sure the Valks don't step forward, and a Fire Giant to the Solar Scarabs.
Yeah, I mean, the Valks, they did exactly what we thought they would, right? They did a damage check, they stepped up, Scaredy misses the Blinkle, and they're like, you know what, we'll give this Fire Giant up. It's not enhanced. I think that was the reason they stepped up, right? If they didn't, the Scarabs always had the option to sit back and wait until 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, these Phoenixes get a lot easier to kill. You don't need that minion aggro. You get backdoor protections. So I think that's why the Valks were like, we'll step up. We're not going to go too far. We're not going to give you a relic. We're not going to give you an ultimate. Besides just stepping up and saying, you know what, we've been defending under Phoenix quite well, and we're going to continue to do that. Now it's up to the Scarabs. How are they going to do this split? It actually looks like Scream and Scaredy are heading mid, whereas Inbound with the carries is going to stay right. I think this is their best option.
And now with an Emperor's Armor on both sides, it's going to at least cut back some of the attack speed of that bird that Gamma's been providing over to him and his team. But now Stuart kind of going back and forth between these lanes, and the Scarabs have kind of been a little wishy-washy on exactly which path they want to take. Do they want to burn one Phoenix? Do they want to burn two? How back and forth things have been. Inbound goes in, eating a lot of damage. Stuart teleports over towards the mid, and now the bird is going down, but Gamma jumps in just in time. Scream is going to stick to the Phoenix, and the Solar Scarabs will grab their first bird of the game. Gamma might be the first casualty of the fight. He goes up into the dragon form, but will not elect to jump in or jump out until he is sure that the Solar Scarabs have given up their push.
That was clean. That was a page out of Genetics' book on the Horizon. They said, you know, we can't break through how this is, so we're going to let Stuart bait like he's going in right, teleport all the way mid, get the Phoenix, and get out. Now the question is, are you going to try to push in when Gamma has the dragon? Wouldn't recommend it. Sit back, wait for that to run out, then you have a much better chance. Someone's going to have to defend those fire minions in mid. The Solar Scarabs have made their first step in finally cracking this base.
Now the dragon is gone. Kyrmi finds a taunt onto just Inbound, and Inbound is chunked low. Pin is good, and Inbound is out. The bird untouched by the Solar Scarabs. And it seems that just getting that mid one was enough of a win for the Scarabs. With Inbound super low, the Solar Scarabs not going to stick around. They'll go back to base and spend up what gold they had in pocket.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you might as well just get the end of these upgrades on your builds, get a couple power potions, upgrade those relics, and try again. You got a minute 35 before Fire Giant falls off, and the Scarabs once again get to attempt to go for the Phoenix. Interestingly enough, and you know, we haven't talked about it too much, they haven't really been going for that left side, the usual best Phoenix to try and get first. They've been going for right, and then the bait and switch there to confirm mid, but left side Phoenix hasn't been looked at too much since the first attempt they made where they were like, we're going to walk in and then just leave, that sort of thing. So, you know, now the Solar Scarabs finally get to group in left where Scream is on the right side of the map. It looks like Inbound's got 3 Valks just holding him in the mid lane, and finally we'll see one more attempt at this left side bird. A minute left. You got about 57 seconds to hold. If the Valhalla Valkyries want to not fight into Fire Giant, that's what they have to try and hold out for.
We do see a group of 3 left and 2 mid, but there's no bird in mid, so this is an easy collapse in by Inbound or Scream for a pincer maneuver. Don't leave only Wowy to defend. A blinking by Scary D will get a stun and a beat from Wowy. Scary D though taunted back in, and Scary D burned away. Kyrmi with some nice defense, some good CC, holds the left side of the base for the Valkyries, and the Scarabs once again, after now losing a player, will have to back themselves out.
Yeah, they lose Fire Giant buff in 18 seconds, but at this point, Scaredy will be back in time for Enhanced Fire Giant, so that's not going to hurt the Scarabs too much unless the Valks decide to get active right now. They are pushing up mid lane as we speak. Where do they go after the fact? Probably to get some vision over on right.
21,000 gold that the Solar Scarabs have up over the Valkyries. Charlie, it's 21,000 gold that the Scarabs have. Literally everybody on their team has all 6 items, but they just can't kill a Phoenix. They haven't gotten a kill in like 12 minutes.
Yeah, and the Valks are setting up the ambush of all ambushes, and there's no one for them to find. Where are you planning on going at this point? There's a fire minion running down mid. All of the Scarabs were sitting there at that Oni Fury. Inbound has used both leaps. Scream is following suit. All of the Scarabs are going to walk into all of the Valkyries. Let's see how it goes.
Inbound the first one in, but he's got an ultimate. Picks up 1. BennyQ, stance switch. Gamma low. Gamma gone. First kill over to the Scarabs. The golden apple doesn't find anything. Stuart credit towards 1. Kyrmi low and will not make it out. Scary D finds 1. Oboronic gets the second. BennyQ in the 1v1 against Scary D will lose this matchup. Not quite. As 1 makes it out, BennyQ turns down and finds one of his own. Beads and agents keep himself out. And Inbound just off the mark with the roar. It's a 4-for-1 trade for the Scarabs. And it's a triple kill for oBoronic. The Scarabs, after biding their time for 12 plus minutes for what felt like 20 at this point to get in there, they'll make their way towards the mid-Phoenix. They'll take down the Bird in game number 2, and the set will go to the Solar Scarabs.
Call an ambulance, but not for me. The ambush that the Valks set up ends up turning sour, and Stuart and Scary D will end this pretty much the way the last game went, with a lot of minions on the Titan of the Valhalla Valkyries. So much fight back from the Valks once it got to 30 plus minutes, but we never get to see it before that point. They just sit there, they let the gold lead climb. Once they get to that late game portion, they feel so confident, but it's just the lead's a little bit too much by then.
I mean, it's 2 games now where the Valkyries are down at least a Phoenix in this one. You know,
Right.
their mid-Phoenix just respawned, so as long as Titan kills the minions, they're good. But Charlie, it didn't feel like they needed to make that play. It didn't feel like they needed to be at the enemy speed buff to go for that ambush.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you ever have to, but they, you know, they felt confident. They were able to win some decent fights. Unfortunately, they lost their Phoenix, but their defense was strong. I guess they felt if they didn't get that enhanced Fire Giant, there was no way they were winning that game, so they had to make that play. That was their mindset, I'm assuming, and fortunately for the Scarabs, didn't work out.
The Valkyries go for a Hail Mary. Unfortunately, it gets intercepted by the Solar Scarabs. It's a 2-0 to the Bugs. We'll throw it over to Des to close out the set.
An elusive 2-0 here for
First
the
one of the year?
Scarabs. Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that one. I probably should have looked that up. Either way.
I heard Slaney say it, so we'll take his
First
word.
one of the year. Actually, I will take his word on it. First 2-0 of the year. A lot of 2-1s for this team, to the point where it's easily memed, Mifflin. But here we finally get to see it. And the second one, I mean, very commanding. 20,000 gold lead. Admittedly, couple repels from the Valks around the Phoenixes. Yeah, just blocking them away. And then unfortunately for them, they go for a big play. Big play doesn't work out. Things fall apart from there.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I agree with J-Mac. I feel like in that situation, that might have been the Valkyries' only winning line, right? Every single time they were lined up on
Otherwise you're
defense,
just stuck.
slowly bleeding out. You don't want to take a fight in neutral territory on the Fire Giant itself, so going for a incredibly high risk, incredibly high reward ambush at the enemy speed buff could have worked out. I will say, I thought Inbound was dead. I'm watching the game, I'm seeing Inbound walking in, I'm like, no way, he's going to get hit by 1 CC, and everybody's there, he's just going to die, but Inbound much too quick on that Whirlwind Rage. Steel was able to turn around that engagement. Gamma gets Uno reverse card, and all of a sudden it's the Solar Scarabs winning their 40th team fight of the game. This was a dominant set top to bottom. The Scarabs really did not allow the Valkyries to breathe. I thought Reminiscent, I had said it to Kabam back there. I was like, hey, they're getting kingsed again, because that's really just what happened. They lost out on neutral farm. They lost out in the team fight. Every objective they started was stolen. The Solar Scarabs felt like it was just like a good day for them, like Ferris Bueller style.
And you know what? It's one of those weird things. Typically, after and we've gotten kind of used to this. Like with the Scarab set, usually in the win, there's the conversation of like, okay, cool. Like here's like what was well in game 1, what was well in game 3, or what was well in game 2 and 3, but like what went wrong in X. Nothing here. Like, I mean, everything, especially in this game. I mean, 20,000 gold up. Yeah, that just feels really good. Maybe a couple of slights that they would have liked to clean up around the Phoenixes, but other than that, I mean, Mifflin, they were just running the show through this one.
My heart goes out to Benny. That bounce is just so unlucky for him. He was putting up hero plays. Wouldn't have won him the game there. By any stretch of the imagination, Stu was already TPing in to the Titan and would have killed it, but shout out to Benny. That looked really cool.
Look, if you're going to die, make flashy plays, right? Like, as long as you can do that, then you'll have something going well. Not really bad slash lines by any means for the Valkyries, although 4-0-3 there, the best one maybe standing up for oBoronic. Not bad damage numbers either. In fact, you know, the only 20Ks that they were able to hit. So good defenses award them a lot of high numbers. Unfortunately, those high numbers weren't where it mattered. Wasn't in the kill count, wasn't in the gold lead. The Scarabs find themselves at 2-0, Mifflin. And it feels like this is a really good start. Again, looking at this, when we came into this, we were saying, like, you know, if you are facing anyone below you in the standings, you said it's a must-win.
Must-win.
So for them, that feels really good. But to even have cleaned it up beyond that, not having to go 3, just finding 2-0, has to feel really good. In fact, we'll find out because we've got Slaney standing by for the post-game interview. And so, Slaney, first off, first 2-0 of the year, how's it feel?
I mean, it feels great. Obviously, we have a big issue with inconsistency. So going 2-0 kind of shows that you can at least be slightly consistent, which is an improvement for us. So
Yeah, especially, game 1, I had kind of joked about it. Starts out kind of team deathmatchy, but then eventually your composition, ends up winning out. Game 2, just outright control. Was there anything that really distinctly shifted for you guys in the mentality going to game number 2?
I mean, in game 1, our draft was obviously we just need to survive the first 10 minutes, which is something that we've been working on. Is just trying not to run it down the whole first 10 minutes of the game to get our lead. And then game 2, it was we saw an opportunity for a disco.
Yeah.
You're going to want to abuse your passive, so it was kind of just came down to disco passive diff.
Now, if I remember, over the last week, you had mentioned that a lot of the inconsistencies for your team was like differing of opinions, things like that. Obviously, midseason brings in a lot of stuff as well. How much of that has been cleaned up? Getting a 2-0 here feels solid, but looking towards the future, how's things feeling?
I mean, I think this week we focused really hard on, like I said, just trying not to run it down in the first 10 minutes, which I think kind of shows we played pretty methodical in both sets, even the second one, even though it was a bit sloppy towards the end. I think we showed that we have practiced on that. I think when it comes to opinions, it's hard for people to just 180 their opinion. So we're still going to have those kind of issues, but I think we're a lot more on the same page with how we want to do things now. And that's kind of matching up in game, which I think was an issue before where we won.
Well, it worked out, right? You guys get the 2-0. I hope that this is a continued success for you guys and that things continue getting cleaned up. Congratulations on the win, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, Mifflin, you hear it right there, right? Things are getting cleaned up, obviously. Again, disagreements is one thing, but being able to work together, I think that has been the hurdle that they were trying to overcome, and I think we get to see it a little bit here today.
Yeah, I do not envy Slaney of his job either. That is a headstrong team that he has got to just pilot, hold on to the reins, and hope that he can steer them in the right direction. Clearly, the Solar Scarabs have made some pretty significant strides. The Solar Scarabs of 6 months ago might still be winning that set, but they're not winning it in 2, and they're certainly not looking as dominant as they were. So this team, mucho improved.
Well, we'll see how well that changes them in the standings, as well as look at the schedule for today. As you can imagine, a 2-0 there means we'll be moving on to the next one. A good treat for you here. The Bolts and the Dragons, a treat in multiple ways. Not the way that the Bolts are dressed today, which you'll see in a little bit, as well as the gameplay I think that these two teams can provide, as well as a treat in the standings, number 2 versus technically number 5. So we'll see how that goes. Scarabs up now to a 3-7 /line. Unfortunately, there for the Valkyries, 0-10. As the 11th set in a row, counting Masters, they have lost. So they're looking now for their improvements. And again, looking forward, I mean, with the Scarabs slipping through their hands right now in a 2-0, I got to wonder where their mind is going to be at.
Man, I am racking my competitive recall brain, and I haven't got the greatest. But teams that have gone unwinning through an entire phase, Thirst Gaming, maybe? I think they actually did find a dub.
Yeah.
I believe Enemy went unwinning, and that might just be it.
There's a 25 loss streak for SK Gaming in Season 5, I want to say, is the longest one. So that's, SK Gaming back then. I don't know how much of that overlapped with a phase, though. That one's a fun one to maybe go look up and try and find out. Either way, though, not feeling too hot right now if you're the Valkyries, looking forward to it, to some sort of victory, some sort of change. I'm trying not to match the 26 loss streak that was there before they got their win a little bit earlier this year. That being said, though, that is going to do it for set number 1. Bolts and Dragons coming up next. We're going to kick it to a quick break, and then we'll be right back.